Oh, mic testing, mic testing. Okay, perfect. So we go to my main camera. Alright, we're live. And what are we going to be doing this live? Before that, what did we do in the previous live? Previous live, I went through gravity in Python. The live before that, and the live before that, I went gravity in Python as well. Worked on some collision logic. But today, as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, I'm going to be working with object-oriented programming and Pygame in Python. So let's begin. Let me just go to my gameplay screen. Okay, perfect. And let's get Sensei in here. Here we go. Let me check if I'm audible. Okay, mute myself. Alright, perfect. Let me say, Sensei, I'm live. You go to have some water? Okay, I have like less than half a bottle. I forgot, guys. I'm a little busy these days. That's the reason I started streaming like 30 minutes late. Okay, Warriors of the Chat, Vivek is live and the dojo is open. Today we're diving into object-oriented programming in Python, the art that turns chaos into control and random variables into full fielded game characters. Here's the roadmap you must master to conquer this battle. Classes and objects. Forging your player, enemies, and bullets into living entities. Instances versus class variables. The difference between a warrior's personal weapon and the clan's shared army or armor. Is that how we pronounce it? Armory? Methods, behaviors. Okay, movement, attack, jumps, embedded skills in your character's inheritance, evolving enemies from base form to deadlier strikes. Okay, polymorphism. One command, many strikes, different enemies, same attack called super method, calling on ancestors' power to extend your own. Duck typing. If it quacks like a projectile and collides like one, it is one. Okay. Static and class methods. The clan's ritual that don't belong to one warrior. Magic methods. Hidden spells like Dunder Inner, Dunder String, and more. Add properties, control health, speed, and power like a true game dev. Let's start with the first topic, classes and objects. In Pygame, okay, your player isn't just a rectangle or a variable floating around. It's a class. The blueprint of what the player is, okay, the blueprint of what that player is and what it can do. From that blueprint, you spawn objects, living entities that move, draw, and interact with the game world. Okay, this is how we turn chaos into something you can control. Chat, if you are ready, we're going to jump straight to the first instructional based question exercise. And Vivek, you better be sharp because this is where the real battle begins. Okay, honestly, guys, I did learn object-oriented programming a few lives ago, so I have a brief idea, but I didn't review much, so I might need some more review. Let me go ahead and say I did learn a bit of OOP, but can you show me a reference of how it works in Pygames? Is that how we phrase this, guys? Here it is, Vivek. I'm not gonna handhold you, but I will show you the dojo's blueprint. You can see how object-oriented programming lives in Pygame. Here's a minimal reference of how classes and objects work in a Pygame game. I'll keep it clean, understandable, and battle ready. So you see the pattern for your player and enemies. So we import Pygame, we import sys. I've seen a lot of people import sys, but I never learned about the sys module. Might have to go through that as well. So we go with a pygame.net, we go with our display, our color. Okay, now we go with our first class. So we create a player class. Then we go with define dunder init. That's basically the constructor. Then we have a inbuilt self parameter. We go with two extra parameters, x and y. Self.x equals f, x, self.y equals y, self.width equals 50, self.height equals 50. So it is a square. Self.color equals red, self.velocity equals 5. Define draw. This is where we're going to be drawing our objects. Okay, self, and we have a surface parameter. Okay, so pygame.draw dot rect, so we're drawing a rectangle. Want to draw my surface. Color is going to be my self.color. Okay, which is red. Excuse me, guys. How are you doing, Aditya? Appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, and then we have self.x-axis, y-axis, width and height. So like a basic way to draw this thing. Okay, and then we go with a move function. Okay, so it basically works like the regular move, the player movements. So we create a keys variable, set that equal to pygame.key.getPressed, and then add a bunch of if statements. If key at index of pygame.k is right, we move our player to the right, like that stuff. Okay. Alright, and then we have an enemy class. We defined under init our constructor. We added an x-axis, y-axis for the enemy as well. Self.x equals x, self.y equals y. These are called instance variables. I did learn about that as well a little. Self.width equals 50, self.height equals 50, self.color equals to, I'm pretty sure this is green color. Self.velocity is 3, and then we draw our enemy as well. Define move, we move our enemy. Okay, we basically automate our enemy. So enemy's x-axis increases by my enemy's velocity if enemy's x-axis plus enemy's width is greater than width, my screen's width, or enemy's x-axis is less than 0. Oh, so this is the general automated bouncing stuff. So if my enemy's x-axis is x-axis plus width, that might be a new part because my enemy is a rectangle. Okay, and then for objects, so we created a player object, set that equal to our player class 375 and 500. I'm assuming that's the x-axis and y-axis. For the enemy, we invoked our enemy class and added the x-axis to be 100, y-axis to be 100. Now for our game loop, we filled our screen.fill white. Okay, we went with a keys variable, set that equal to pygame.key.getPressed. I'm an 11th grade student. I'm thinking to learn MS Office like something. Oh, that honestly sounds like a pretty good idea. Good evening. Congratulations for 740 subscriber, brother. Honestly, I appreciate you, Gen B Nano. And like, I appreciate all you guys as well. Some advice. Honestly, I'd say I'm the worst person to give an advice right now because the only coding language that I actually have a brief idea on is like Python. I didn't learn much about MS, like all the different languages. Although after this 100 series, I am planning to learn different languages as well. So that's going to be interesting. Okay, so player and enemy updates. So player.move, we use our move function. We use our move method. It's called a method. Okay, keys. Okay, and then player.draw screen. Okay, and then enemy.move, enemy.draw screen. I see, and then player.display.update, clock.tick, that's our FPS, and then event handling for every event in pygame.event.get. If event.type equals to pygame.quit, okay, pygame.quit, and sys exit. See what happens here? Player and enemy are blueprints, classes, okay, blueprint classes. Player and enemy are objects, instances, okay. Each has its own data, x-axis, y-axis, width, color, speed, and behavior, move, draw, okay. Enemy movement and bouncing is completely self-contained. Player reacts to input. This is the skeleton of object-oriented programming in Python or in Pygame. Later, we'll add bullets. Okay, honestly, let me say. Let's say, I feel like I understand, although I didn't learn about the sys module. Can you give me a brief overview or explain it to be question mark? Okay, or Vivek, listen up. This is important, but I'll keep it short and sharp. The sys module in Python is like the backstage crew of your game, okay? It gives you access to the system of your Python program, okay? It gives you access to the system of your Python program is still on, okay? And it lets you control some parts of Python that aren't available by default. In Pygame, the one you actually see is sys.exit. Here's the breakdown. Sys.exit tells Python stop everything, quit the program now. Okay, why not just pygame.quit? Because pygame.quit only shuts down the Pygame. Oh, I see. Your Python program keeps running unless you also call sys.exit. Think of it like this. Pygame.quit turns off the lights of the dojo. Sys.exit you lock the door and leave the building. Okay. Other things sys can do, okay? You don't need it now, you just need to know the power of exits. Okay, sys.argv passes arguments to your program from the command line. Sys.path sees where Python looks for modules. Sys.platform knows what OS you're on, okay? Windows, Mac, Linux. For now, all you need to remember is sys.exit after pygame.quit to fully close your game. If you want, we can jump straight into your first object-oriented programming exercise in Pygame broken code style, and you'll see sys.exit in action again. Okay, do you want me to throw it at you? Just let's say ... although I won't be as good as it right now because I have almost no experience with it. Okay. Good, that's exactly the attitude, Vivek. You don't need to be a master yet. You just need to show up, fight, and learn from every mistake. That's how warriors get stronger. I don't expect perfection. I expect effort, brains, and sweat on the keyboard. Here's your first object-oriented programming. Broken code style. Honestly, I feel I should first do a broken code before I move to instructional-based questions. Where are you from? I'm currently in the United States. Aditya, you should start with Word for Note, then Excel for data, and PP for presentation. It'll give you skills. Oh, okay. So let me copy that. Get should say there and paste the broken code. Okay, let me just delete these because I didn't want any kind of hints. All right, let's see. So I imported Pygame, I imported sys, I initialized Pygame, added my display, my player class. Okay, for my player class, I have a class called player. I defined a constructor using define dunder init. I added a self parameter, that is built-in parameter, a x-axis parameter, a y-axis parameter. Then I added a few instance variables. So self.x equals to x, self.y equals to y, self.width equals to 50, self.height equals to 50, self.color equals to, I'm pretty sure this is red, self.velocity equals to 5. Move function is missing some stuff. Okay, if my memory is correct, I should probably add a define move as well. So let me go with define move. Since this is a function, since this is not a function and this is a method, I'm going to get the self parameter. Okay, and I'll need a keys variable here. I'm pretty sure I need a keys variable. Okay, now let me go with an if statement. If my keys at index of pygame.key is right, if my right key is pressed, I will increase my player's x-axis. Technically, my player's x-axis is my self x-axis. So self.x-axis is going to increase by my self.velocity. Okay, this is almost the same as the regular ways that I used to do it, but I just got to use self instead of my player's variable. Okay, I'm a beginner. I don't know about this. I use ChatGPT or Perceptively to guide me. Okay, guys, I apologize if I can't spell. Honestly, if you're a beginner, I might be able to help you because the topics that I went, a quick shameless plug, you guys can join my Discord server, but as a beginner, like with zero prior coding experience, I did start with this. So like if I go all the way up here, this is how I started to learn Python. So I started with the basics, print statements, variables, user input, and then arithmetic and math, and like all the way down here until until reading files. After reading files, I moved on to Pygames and I was learning a little more about Pygames. These are the core movement for Pygames. So level 1 is how to create a window and everything. And doing all these things, you can like check it out in the Discord server. You could ping me as well and I could like DM these to you or something. Yeah, so after these were basically all I did. Like I was just practicing all those, and there are a few formulas too. Like this is for the collision formula part. But that aside, let's get back to this. Next up, if my keys at index of pygame.key is left, if my left key is pressed, I will decrease my self.y-axis by my self.velocity. Okay, and if my keys at index of pygame.key is up, if my top key is pressed, I will decrease my self.y-axis by my self.velocity. And lastly, if my keys at index of pygame.key is down, I will increase my self.y-axis by my self.velocity. Okay, this should fix this part as well. Next up, I gotta define a draw function. So let me go ahead and define draw. Okay, I will need a parameter. Let's think of a parameter. My parameter could be something like, I don't know, draw. Okay, there we go. So I want to draw an object. What object should I draw? Let me go with screen.blit. Actually, not blit. I'll go with screen.draw. How did I add that 9 there? I did click a button, so actually not screen. This should be pygame.draw. So pygame.draw.rect. I want the surface to be my screen. I want the draw. I might not need a draw parameter here, honestly. Okay, so pygame.draw.rect screen. The color is going to be red. Do I have a red variable here? I don't. So I'll go with the RGB 25500. Excuse me, guys. And then in a tuple, the x-axis, y-axis, width, and height. So the x-axis is going to be self.x is going to be the x-axis, comma, self.y is going to be the y-axis, width is going to be the width, and lastly, let me just scoot here a little, can't see anything. Self.height is going to be height. Okay, that should draw my object. Now, the pygame.draw screen. Honestly, I'll go with graphic, and then I'll go with the pygame.draw graphic. Or this should be, honestly, never mind. I think screen is correct. There. Now if I run the command, there we go. I can like move my object. I just messed up a little with the buttons here. So let's see, plus. So x-axis. There we go. This should be x-axis. Okay, now if I run the command, there we go. The velocity is a little slow, but the object moves. Okay, I didn't trap my player in the window till now. But that aside, I'm still a little new to this. Let me go with Control-C. I think this is what Sensei wanted. Let's get Sensei here. Okay, and now paste add a bunch of space, Sensei. Sensei, is this what you wanted? Question mark. Yes, Vivek, this is exactly what I wanted. Look at that. You just took broken code and forged it into a moving, breathing player. A few quick Sensei notes. Your move method works perfectly. Arrow keys move the player like a true warrior in the battlefield. Your draw method works too, although you're passing graphics as a parameter but not using it. Not a big deal yet. Okay, but usually we do... Okay, self and surface. Surface. I see, okay. So you can reuse it on any surface, not just screen. Small tweak, okay, but teaches good object-oriented programming habits. You'll see how classes turn chaos into order. Your player is now a self-contained entity. It knows how to move, it knows how to draw, and the game loop just tells it to do its things. Chat, witness this. Vivek just leveled up. Next step, without gravity. Honestly, let me say, Sensei, I want to write that from scratch now, so can I get a instructional based question mark, and can the instruction be a little clear? Okay, I did work a little my typos. Instruction be a little clear. Alright, let's see. Vivek, listen up. This is your next battle. I want you to write a player class in Pygame from scratch. No copy paste, no cheating, start fresh. Here's your instruction code. Create a player class with these attributes: x-axis and y-axis, starting positions, width and height, size of the rectangle, use both for 50, color red, the velocity, movement speed 5 pixels per frame, add a move method that takes keyboard input and moves the player rectangle. Arrow keys move the player in the corresponding direction. Add a draw method that draws the player on a surface passed as a parameter. Okay. In the game loop, fill the screen with each frame, get keyboard input, move and draw the player, update the display, and tick the clock. Properly handle quitting using pygame.quit and sys.exit. Remember, think like a class, act like an object. The game inside loop should tell the player what to do, not control the player inside. Now grab your keyboard and write this player class from scratch. Okay, let's say there. Let's go with Control A, delete this whole thing. Alright, so I'm going to be doing something new. So first up, I'll import Pygame that I usually do. Now let me import sys. And I have almost zero experience learning about sys. I've seen people use sys, but I never thought to learn about it. That was a bad idea. Let me initialize Pygame by typing pygame.init, and then let me create FPS controller. So I'll go with a clock variable, set that equal to pygame.clock.time. Actually, pygame.time.clock, capitalize clock, and maybe I'll add a comment that says FPS controller. And then let me go ahead and add my display. For my display, I'll create two variables. First is going to be a width variable. Second is going to be a height variable. I'll set that equal to, my width is going to be 800 and my height is going to be 600. After that, let me go with a screen variable. I'll set that equal to pygame.display.set_mode. I'll set my mode inside of a tuple. The mode, the size is going to be my width variable and my height variable. And then let me add a caption. For the caption, I'll go with pygame.display.set_caption. The caption could be something like object-oriented programming test. Okay, and then let me go ahead and now for the confusing parts, let me create a class called player. I'll create a player class. Let's read the instructions. Create a player class with these attributes: x-axis, y-axis. So let me go ahead and add a constructor method. So to add a constructor method, I'll go with define dunder init. This is basically the constructor method. I mean, I could hit enter and like get it, but I'm trying to type it out myself. Okay, that's going to give me a self parameter. Then I'll add a few parameters. So x-axis, y-axis, width, and height. Okay, next up, let me create a few instance variables. So I'll go with self.x equals to x-axis, self.y equals to y-axis, self.width equals to width, and lastly self.height equals to height. And now I could go ahead and add a velocity variable as well. So self.well equals to well. Alright, and then let me next up go ahead and create another method called move. This is going to be my player movement. Since it's a method, it is going to be coming with a self parameter. Excuse me guys, I will add a parameter of keys. Excuse me again guys. Okay, and then I'll go with an if statement. If my keys at index of pygame.key is right, if my right key is pressed, I will do something. I will increase my player's x-axis, which means self.x-axis, by my self.velocity. Okay, and then if my keys at index of pygame.key is left, if my left key is pressed, I will decrease my self.x-axis by my, this should be velocity, not y, my bad guys. Okay, by my self.velocity. Okay, and then if my keys at index of pygame.k is up, if my top key is pressed, I will decrease my self.y-axis this time by my self.velocity. Lastly, if my keys at index of pygame.key is down, the case should be uppercase down. Okay, I will increase my self.y-axis by my self.velocity. And also, let me open the chats on my phone because, yeah, I sometimes can't see in my other monitor. There we go. Uh, okay, perfect. Let me just keep it here. Uh, okay, ADI, it's a smart move by using ChatGPT AIs to learn MS will make things way easier for you. Honestly, that does make sense. I could see myself learning using books and everything, but it wouldn't be as fun as it's when learning with an actual let's say slash ChatGPT. Okay, next up, let me go ahead and define a draw function. And then, as I said, I'll keep this parameter as surface. Now, let me go ahead and draw an object. So I'll go with pygame.draw.rect. Okay, so my surface is going to be my surface. Parameter, my color is going to be red. So I'll go with 25500, that's red. And then a tuple, let me decrease the size of the screen a little. Okay, so my self.x-axis, self.y-axis, self.width, and lastly self.height. Okay, perfect. And then I'm pretty sure I gotta invoke the function. So add move, okay, add a draw, did that in the game loop. Alright, so now I gotta add the game loop. So do I add the game loop inside my player class or like outside my player class? I'm pretty sure I gotta add it outside my player class. So I'll add a comment that says game loop. For game loop, I'll create is underscore running boolean variable. I'll set that equal to true, and then I'll add a while loop. So while is underscore running while my program is running or while my is running is set to true, I will add FPS. To add FPS, I'll go with clock.tick, which is going to be 60. This is going to be 60 frames per second. And then let me iterate over all my Pygame events. To do that, I'll go with a event loop. And then add a for loop. So for every event in my pygame.event.get, there we go. This gets all my events. There we go. Okay, this gets all my event. I'm going to be looking for a specific type of event. If my event.type equals to pygame.quit, this is going to be a capitalized quit. I will set my is underscore running boolean variable to be equal to false. Okay, there we go. Guys, I blame my long nails for my typos. Alright, and then let's see. Fill the screen with white each frame, get the keyboard input. Okay, so let me go ahead and fill my screen. So outside my for loop, I'll go with a screen.fill. I'm pretty sure that white is going to be 0, 0, 0 in terms of the RGB color. This should be inside of a tuple. 0, 0, 0. I'm pretty sure that's white. Okay, and then fill a screen, get the keyboard input. So get the keyword input. So I most likely have to go ahead and call my keys function. So should I add like, okay, actually let me create an object. So my object is going to be my player equals to my player class. My player's parameter is x-axis, y-axis, width, and height. So the x-axis is going to be, I don't know, 100. Y-axis is going to be 500. Width is going to be 50. Height is going to be 50. Velocity is going to be like 7 pixels per frame. Okay, now to call my move function, I'll go with player.move. The surface is going to be my screen. Actually, it's going to be my keys. There. The surface. What if I didn't add a surface here? Does it say required parameter? Honestly, I don't think. Oh, okay. I might have to go with a whatchamacallit, keys equals to pygame dot key dot get underscore pressed. Pretty sure I need this, and then maybe just go here with a space. Okay, now player dot move keys. That works. Okay, I'm assuming that's correct. So I will add a comment here that says player movement. There we go. Okay, and then the next part that I had to do was move and draw the player. Okay, so I gotta move and draw the player. Okay, there. So let me go ahead and add graphics. So for my graphics, I'll go with my player object dot draw. The parameter. So what are the parameters that I need? I need a surface. My surface is gonna be my screen. Okay. And then let me actually add a pygame.display.quit and a sys.exit. I might have to update my display, guys. Do we need to update our display? Is that how it works? Select pygame.display.flip. Is this how it works as well if I run the command? I am inside my while loop. Okay, so maybe I need to indent this. It is indented inside my while loop. Oh, this should go outside my while loop. There. Okay, I just see a black this thing. What if this is 255? Oh yeah, 255 is going to be white. So 255, 255, and 255. And let me lubricate my lips actually. It's real dry, guys. It's so hard to talk. There we go. Alright, so now if I run the command, why does it still show a black screen? Okay, actually, I might have to ask Tutsui for a bit of help here. I think I'm in a critical condition. Yeah, guys, I have like almost no experience doing this because I didn't have time because I've been learning my college stuff, so I didn't have time to like go through a few YouTube tutorials before I actually started this. I had a bunch of space and say, Sensei, I messed up! Exclamation. It's alright, guys. By the end of the stream, I'm gonna be mastering this. I don't know as far. I won't go as far as to saying I'll master it, but I'm gonna be real good with this. Oh, I see what you did, Vivek, but this won't fly in the dojo. You almost nailed it, but you messed up the game. The exit sequence. Look close. Pygame.display.flip, pygame.display.quit, and sys.exit. Problem. You call pygame.display.quit outside the event loop, and after the loop ends, you never actually quit the game properly. When the user closes the window, here's what should happen. Okay, when pygame.quit is detected, you must quit pygame and exit Python. Immediately inside the event handling block, pygame.display.flip or pygame.update should be inside the game loop, not after it. So instead of what you wrote, it should look like this. For every event in pygame.event.get, if event.type equals to pygame.quit, everything else, your player, movement method draw perfect, your rectangle movements, your class is clean, you pass surface correctly, chat witness this. Vivek, fix it by putting the quit line in the event loop and move the pygame.flip inside the game loop. Alright, if I think it's correct, yo Viv, good night, see you tomorrow. Alright, I appreciate you joining this stream, Genvi Nano. I'll catch you in the next stream. Okay, so if I understood that part correct, my event loop. Let me copy that. Maybe even my clock.tick, but I'll do that later. Let me copy that, delete that from here, add that at the end, so like right here, and then add my pygame.display.flip inside. Does that make a difference? Oh, it does. That's something new. I'm not used to doing it like this. Oh, it's so okay. This does work. This does work. I'm just not used to this because usually the way I do is first I create my game loop, add my is running variable which is set to true, and then while is running I add FPS, I add my event loop, and then I go ahead and add my player movement, and then maybe my what you call it, player trap the player in the wall, then automate my npcs, bounce my npcs, add collisions, and lastly, once I'm done with everything, then after adding my graphics, I go ahead and do a pygame.display.flip or pygame.display.update, and then a pygame.quit. This is kind of different, but I think I'll get used to this real quick. All right, let me paste it and say, let's say it works now, although can we do multiple more questions exactly like this? Guys, I cannot phrase right now, and in general I'm just a bad phraser. Yes, I'm going to say exactly what I want to see. You fix the exit logic perfectly. The player class is solid, movement works. This is how we build warriors in code. Absolutely. We can do multiple more questions exactly like this. Each one is slightly different. So you build confidence in class and objects, practice move/draw methods, handle multiple entities, collisions, or different behaviors. Keep the pygame loop clean and organized. Next round idea: add an enemy class that moves automatically across the screen. Player must avoid colliding with the enemy. We can add a simple rect collision check. Keep everything object-oriented programming. Enemy is its own object. Okay, we'll start with one enemy. Later we can add lists of enemies like a row. Okay, battlefields. You want me to give the broken code for this next player plus enemy challenge? Honestly, let me actually take a good look at this. So for loop comes after my graphics, everything at the end. Okay, let me go with a control A, control, and delete this whole thing. Then let me do this from the very beginning to check if I got a grasp of this. So I'll start up by importing pygame, and then let me import sys. Then let me initialize pygame by typing pygame.init. This initializes pygame. Then let me go ahead and add my FPS. So I will create a clock variable. I'll set that equal to pygame.time dot a capitalized clock, and I'll add a comment that says FPS controller. Alright, and then after that, let me go ahead and add my display. So I'll add a comment that says display, and then let me create a width variable and a height variable. I'll set my width variable to be equal to 800 and my height variable to be equal to 600. Then let me create a screen variable. I'll set that equal to pygame.display.set underscore mode. This basically sets my mode. I'm going to be setting my mode inside of a tuple. My mode is going to be my width of my width variable 800 and my height of my height variable, which is 600. And then let me add a caption. So I'll go with pygame.display.set underscore caption. I'll set my caption to something like object-oriented programming test 1.1. Alright, and then let me go ahead and create a player class. So I'll create a class called player. There we go. And then let me define a constructor. So I'll go with define dunder init. Two more underscores. Basically, if you guys didn't know, dunder means double underscores. Okay, and then I'll add a few parameters like x-axis, y-axis, width, height, velocity. And then let me create a few instance variables. To create an instance variable, I'll go with self.x-axis equals to x-axis, self.y-axis equals to y-axis, self.width equals to width. Okay, and then self.height equals to height. Lastly, self.velocity equals to velocity. Okay, and then let me go ahead and define another method called, let's see, the move method. For the move method, I'll go ahead and add one parameter called keys. Then let me add a bunch of if statements. if my keys at index of pygame.key is right, if my right key is pressed, I will do something. This needs to be if. Okay, and let me actually check if I'm audible because I don't remember if I charged my mic yesterday. Alright, perfect. Okay, so if my keys at index of pygame.key is right, I will increase my self dot x-axis. Get that from there. Honestly, did I like mess my camera up by any chance? Let's see. There, that's good. Okay. Then let me go with self.x-axis. I will increase that by myself. This needs to be indented. Excuse me, guys. By myself dot velocity. I might have to add specifics to it. So x velocity, y velocity, self dot x velocity equals to x velocity, and then a self dot y velocity self dot y velocity equals to y velocity. Okay, the reason I'm adding this is later when I gotta add gravity everything, this will be useful, so it's going to be a pretty good habit to learn from now. So I'll increase my x-axis by my x-axis velocity, and if my keys at index of pygame dot key is left, if my left key is pressed, I will decrease my self dot x-axis by my self dot x-axis velocity. And if my keys at index of pygame dot key is up, if my top key is pressed, I will decrease my self dot x-axis by myself. Honestly, my self dot y-axis, my bad guys. Self dot y-axis, I'll decrease it by my self dot y-axis velocity. And lastly, if my keys at index of pygame keys at index of pygame dot key is down, if my bottom key is pressed, I will increase my self dot y-axis by my self dot y-axis velocity. Alright, that is my move function. I wonder if we add spaces here. I'm pretty sure we do. Okay, and then let me go ahead and define a draw function. Define draw. So let me go ahead and draw my player. I'll add an attribute of, I'm pretty sure this is called a parameter, not an attribute, of surface. And then let me go ahead and type pygame.draw.rect. I want to draw a rectangle. So let's see, pygame.draw.rect. Let me add the parameters. So the first is going to be my surface. Okay. My surface is going to be my surface. My color, let's keep my color red again. I don't know the RGB of any more colors. I'll go 25500. And then a tuple, my self.x-axis, self.y-axis, self.y-axis, self.width, comma, self.height. Alright, perfect. Okay, that's all I need for this. That's honestly everything I needed, right? Player, move, draw. Alright, so now let me go ahead and create an object. I'll create a player object. I'll set that equal to my player class and add the attributes for my player class. So what all attributes do I need? I need x-axis, y-axis, width, height, x velocity, and y velocity. My player class is x-axis is going to be 100, y-axis is going to be 300, x velocity is going to be 5 frames per second, y velocity is going to be 5 frames per second as well. This is width and height, guys, my bad. I'll go with 50, 55, and 5. Perfect. Alright, so now let me go ahead and add my game loop. Okay, for my game loop, I'll go ahead and create a is_running boolean variable. I'll set that equal to true, and then I'll add a while loop. So while is_running, while my program is running or while my is running is set to true, I will add FPS, but apparently my FPS needs to go at the bottom, so I will skip over my FPS. I will skip over my what you call it, event loop, and I will add my keys. So I'll create a keys variable. I'll set that equal to pygame.key.get underscore pressed, and then I'll add my move function. I'll go with my player.move, so player.move function, and I'll add my keys parameter to it. Okay, and then let's see, next is draw. So I'll go with a player.draw. Let me draw my player. My surface is gonna be my screen. Okay, maybe I add a comment that says player movement. This is gonna be my graphics. Here I'm gonna add all my graphics. Okay, and after this, let me go ahead and add my event loop. For my event loop, I'll iterate over all my Pygame events. So for every event in my pygame.event.get, this gets all my Pygame events. I'll look for a specific type of event. If my event.type equals to pygame dot all capitalized quit or uppercase quit, I'll set my is underscore running boolean variable to be equal to false, and then outside my for loop, I'll go with a pygame.display.flip. Okay, and then I'll go with a pygame.quit, and lastly a pygame actually not pygame, a sys.exit. I don't know what sys.exit does yet, but I just know you gotta add it. Okay, I do need to fill my screen, so I'll go ahead and add a screen.fill. So screen.fill, I'll fill the screen to be a good gray color, so 200, 200, 200. Now if I run the command, I have a red circle that, whoops guys, I forgot to add FPS, my bad. Excuse me guys. Okay, let me add an FPS here, so I'll go with clock.tick 60. Okay, and then maybe I add a comment here that says FPS, any space. Alright, so now if I run the command, so I have a box that moves around. Now here's the thing. Let's see if I could actually trap the player inside the surface without Sutsei's help. Might be a challenge, guys. If you guys know me, I ask Sutsei for almost everything. Okay, so let me go ahead and define a variable called trap. Okay, so what I'll do, I need to trap my player in the screen. So I check if my player's x-axis is greater than or equal to, honestly, okay, it's hard to explain, but let me just go with the function real quick. So I'll go with self.x-axis is going to be equal to max, which is going to be 0, min, which is going to be, let's see, maybe I add a space here. Okay, min is going to be my self.x-axis, comma, 800, my vertical window size, minus my self.width. Okay, let me do the same thing with the y-axis. So self.y-axis equals to max, which is going to be set to 0, min, which is going to be set to self.y-axis this time, comma, 600, my horizontal display size, minus my self.height. There. And now maybe under my player movement, I'll go ahead and add a comment that says trap player in window. To trap my player in window, I'll go with my player object dot trap. There, I don't need a parameter. This should trap my player in the window. There we go. Guys, I feel I already get a grasp of object-oriented programming. I'm so glad I learned this before. There we go, it's trapped. Okay. Honestly, if I did that, what if I wanted to load my PNGs in as well? Before that, can I add my collision logic too? Let me try. Let me define another method called collision detector. Collision detector. Okay. Now, what all do I do for my collision detector? I don't want it to be a pixel perfect collision yet. Although I do remember pixel perfect collision in memory. I do want to try collisions with two rectangles. Honestly, let's go with a circle and a rectangle. So what all variables do I need? So a variable that I create is not offsets. Oh, it's processing, guys. Uh, I need one for my closest x-axis, closest y-axis, direction x, direction y, and direction squared. Got it. Closest x-axis, closest y-axis, direction x, direction y, direction squared. Whew. Direction underscore squared. Okay, guys, that was kind of intense. That used almost all my brain power that I had. All right, so let me shrink this a little more, maybe. There. Okay, so my closest underscore x-axis equals to my enemy's x-axis. So enemy, I don't have an enemy yet. I might have to, excuse me guys, I might have to create an enemy class as well. Hey bro, how are you doing, Dark? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, so guys, do you guys know where should I create my enemy class before my collision logic? I'm pretty sure I should create a brand new class. So like here, class is going to be enemy. Although, can my enemy class inherit my other classes attributes without using multiple inheritance? Honestly, I think this part is worth me asking Sensei for help because I didn't do any questions related to this. Let's go with Control A, Control C. Get Sensei here. Paste it at a bunch of spaces. Let me say, Sensei, I actually trapped my player. I trapped my player in the window as well, dot dot dot. Although I did want to add a enemy class and add collision detection as well, dot dot dot. How to do that, question mark. Okay, let's see. Yes, Vivek, now we're talking a real object-oriented programming battlefield. You trapped your player perfectly. No more escaping the dojo walls. Now let's add an enemy class and basic collision detection. Here's a battle plan. Enemy class similar to player but moves automatically. Has attributes x-axis, y-axis, width, height, x velocity, method, move, and draw surface. Okay. Example skeletons. So we have an enemy class, we defined a dunter in it, our constructor added these parameters of x-axis, y-axis, width, height, and x-axis velocity. Then we created the instance variables for those parameters. Then we added a move method. We automated our object, means step.x-axis increases by my step.velocity, step.x-axis velocity. And then we bounce the player off wall if my player or if my self.x-axis is less than or equal to 0, or my self.x-axis plus my self.width is greater than or equal to 800, self.x-axis underscore velocity asterisk equals to -1. Basically, this switches the velocities from +5 to -5. So it hits the wall, now it's -5, it goes backwards, if that made any sense. And then we defined a draw function. We added a parameter of self to it. Pygame.draw.rect, we're drawing a rectangle surface. Our color is going to be RGB. Our color is going to be blue. Self.x-axis, self.y-axis, self.width, self.height. Okay. And then for our collision detection, oh, it makes more sense here. This is collide rect. Okay, that makes sense. Player underscore rect equals to pygame.rect. We created rectangles for our player and our enemy. Okay. Pygame has rect objects, which makes it simpler. This can go inside the game loop after moving both player and enemy, okay? Game loop flow: fill screen, move player, move enemy, trap player, bounce, check collision handle, draw player and event, update display. Vivek, here's the challenge. Write enemy class like the skeleton above, create one enemy object, add collision detection with your player, keep everything object oriented programming. Don't just use raw rectangles outside of class. If you do this correctly, your stream will have a moving enemy and collision detection in 5 minutes. Okay, I guess let's say there. So where are you from? I'm currently in the United States. Okay, so guys, what do you guys think? Should I do this whole thing again? I really want to do this whole thing again, honestly. Let's go with Control A, delete everything. Let me start up by importing Pygame, and then let me import the sys module. Then maybe zoom in a little. Now let me go ahead and initialize Pygame by typing pygame.init. That initializes Pygame. And then let me add my FPS controller. So I create a clock variable, set that equal to pygame.clock, actually pygame.time dot capitalize clock, and I'll probably add a comment that says FPS controller. There we go. And then let me go ahead and add my display. So for my display, I'll create a width comma height variable. Two variables. I'll set my width to 800 and my height to 600. Okay, and then let me go ahead and create a screen variable. So for my screen variable, I'll set that equal to pygame.display.set underscore mode. I'm going to be setting a mode. The mode is going to be inside of a tuple. My mode's width is going to be my width variable, and my mode's height is going to be my height variable, which is set to 600. Then let me add a caption. So I'll go with a pygame.display.set underscore caption. My caption is going to be something like OOP 1.2. Okay. And then let me go ahead and create a player class. So I'll go class player. For my player class, let's see, I'll define a dunger init. This is basically my constructor. I'll add a bunch of parameters like my player's x-axis, my player's y-axis, my player's width, and my player's height, alongside my player's x-axis velocity and my player's y-axis velocity. There we go. Okay, and then let me go with a self.x-axis equals to x-axis, self.y-axis equals to y-axis in a new line. I don't want to write here. Self.y equals to y, self.width equals to width, self.height equals to height, x velocity equals to x velocity, y velocity equals to y velocity. Let me just copy that. So I copy that, delete that, go in the new line, paste it. Alright, now that I added my parameters, let me go ahead and add a variables or a method. I'll go with a move method. Okay, I'll have a parameter of keys. Okay. I started programming last month, and your tutorial said we should research on OOP till I found you, but you're way in front of me. Hope I get to know you more. Honestly, I don't think I'm way in front of you. I'm still a complete absolute beginner. It's just Sensei. Like, Sensei is a real good teacher. Should I solve lead code? I'm from non-circuital background, mech, NIT, DGP. Want to keep my options open for CSC ID placements? Honestly, I did hear like many people have been recommending me to use LeetCode. I was planning to use LeetCode as well, but I felt that ChatGPT/Sensei is like way more flexible. Although I will eventually use LeetCode, I would recommend you guys to like explore more stuff and see which helps you learn better. Like if YouTube tutorials could help you guys learn better, ChatGPT/AIs can help you better, or just solving problems in general can help you in better. So, yeah, that was honestly basically it. Okay, so let me go with a bunch of if statements. So, if my keys at index of pygame.key is right, if my right key is pressed, I will increase my self.x-axis by, let's see, my self.x-axis velocity. And if my keys at index of pygame.key is left, if my left key is pressed, I will decrease my self.x-axis, which is my player's x-axis, by my self.x-axis velocity. And if my keys at index of pygame.key is up, if my top key is pressed, I will decrease my self.y-axis by my self .y-axis velocity. And lastly, if my keys at index of pygame.k is down, if my bottom key is pressed, I will increase my player, actually myself, self.y-axis by my self.y-axis velocity. And there needs to be, do I have a y-axis velocity? I do have a y velocity parameter. I even added an instance variable for it. Self.y velocity. This should be correct. Huh. Let me copy that. Paste it. Paste it. What if I go with x velocity? I mean, Control Z. Copy. Paste. Paste. How does the x velocity work and the y velocity does not work? That doesn't make any sense. If my keys at index of pygame.key is up, my self.y-axis decreases by my self.y-axis velocity. I did have a y-axis velocity. I even added an instance variable for it. Oh, okay, there we go. Y velocity. Perfection. Copy that. Paste it, paste it. Okay, now perfect. Alright, and then let me go ahead and define a graphics. Graphics would sound much better, but I'll go with draw because I'm going to draw in my screen. I will keep a parameter of my surface here. Okay. Alright, perfect. And then let me go ahead and go with a pygame.draw.rect. My player will be a rectangle. Let's see. I'll add a bunch of parameters. So the first parameter is going to be my surface. The color is going to be, I don't know, let's go with red again. Okay, and then in a tuple, I'm going to add the x-axis, y-axis, width, and height of my player. So self.x-axis, self.y-axis, self.width, and lastly, a self.height. Alright, perfect. And then let me go ahead and create my enemy class as well. I'm pretty sure that was all for my player class. I do need a trap, so let me define a trap method. This is going to be pretty easy. So self.x-axis is going to be equal to max, which is going to be set to 0, min, which is going to be set to self.x-axis, comma 800, my vertical display size minus my self.width. Okay, and then let me go with a self.y-axis, which is going to be equal to max again, which is going to be 0. Min is going to be self.min this time. So self.y-axis, my bad guys, self.y-axis 600 minus my self.height. Okay, that should trap my player in the screen. Next up, let me go ahead and define or create another class called enemy. So this is going to be my enemy class. For my enemy class, I'll define a dunder init function again, or a constructor again. I'll add the same parameters as my players. So x-axis, y-axis, width. Honestly, my circle might actually just be a circle. I mean, my enemy might be a circle. So I'll go with a radius, a x-axis velocity, and a y-axis velocity. Okay. And then let me create instance variables. So self.x equals to x. Okay, self.y-axis equals to y-axis. Self.width equals to width. Self.height equals to height. Guys, do I have long nails that I can't click anything properly? I mean, I do have long nails. I honestly don't have time to like cut my nails. I should probably cut it. I don't have a width. This gotta be radius. So radius, this is going to be x velocity, which is going to be equal to x velocity. And lastly, self dot y velocity, which is going to be equal to my y underscore velocity. Gonna leave for a while, be here in a second. Alright, appreciate you joining the stream, dog. I'll catch you in a bit. Alright, then let me go ahead and define a move function for my enemy NPC as well. Honestly, I'll go with automate. It's a more fancier word, guys. I honestly like using fancy words for some reason. Alright, so for a self.automate, let's see. I wouldn't need a parameter. I'll just increase my self.x-axis by my self.x-axis velocity and my self.y-axis by my self.y-axis velocity. Okay, this is going to move my objects, although I do want to add a bounce. So let me go ahead and define a bounce function. This is going to bounce my my NPCs. So I'll add an if statement. If my self.x-axis minus my self.radius is less than or equal to 0, or my self.y-axis, actually x-axis, is greater than or equal to 800 minus my self.radius, I will do something. Let's see. My self.x-axis underscore velocity, I'm going to multiply that by -1. I'll do the same thing for my y-axis as well now. If my self.y-axis minus my self.radius is less than or equal to 0, or my self.y-axis is greater than or equal to 600, my horizontal window size, I feel like I always mess up my verticals and horizontals, minus my self.radius. Alright, I will do the same thing but with my y-axis. So self.y-axis, I'm going to multiply that by -1. This should add perfect bounce to my NPCs. Alright, next up, let me go ahead and create objects. So I'll go with a player object. I'll set that equal to my player class, and I'll add the parameters. The parameters were x-axis, y-axis. So the x-axis is going to be 100. The y-axis is going to be 500. The width can be 50. The height can be 50. Then the x-axis velocity. The x-axis velocity could be 8 pixels per frame. The y-axis velocity could be 8 pixels per frame as well. Next up, let me go ahead and create my enemy object. I'll set that equal to my enemy class. Okay, and then let me add the parameters. The x-axis could be 500 and then 300. Let me honestly change that to 300 as well. Okay, the width of my circle. So, actually, not width. The radius of my circle can be 40. Okay, and then the x velocity can be 7 pixels per frame. The y velocity can be 7 pixels per frame as well. Perfect. And now, let me go ahead and add my game loop. So, I'll go with a game loop. And I'll create a is_running boolean variable for my game loop, which will be set to true. Okay, and then let me add a while loop. So while is_running, while my program is running or while my is running is set to true, I will let's see, I will add keys. So I will add my player movement. Before that, although, let me go ahead and add like, I'll fill my screen. So I'll go with a screen.fill, a good gray color. So 200 by 200 by 200. Alright, now for my player movement, I'll create a keys variable, set that equal to pygame.key.get_pressed. And then let me go with my player object dot the move method. The parameter inside will be my keys. Perfect. And then next up, let me go with player in window. Alright, so to trap my player in window, let me go ahead and go with my player dot trap method. This is going to trap my player in window. And then move player, trap player. Okay, now let me go with graphics. Okay, for my graphics, honestly, before my graphics, let me go with my automate enemy. So to automate my enemy, I'll go with my enemy variable dot automate. This is going to automate my enemy, and then actually automate and bounce enemy, because I don't want to add a lot of comments. Automate and bounce enemy. So enemy dot automate and enemy dot bounce. There we go. Next up, let me go ahead and add graphics. For the graphics, I'll go with my player dot draw. The surface is going to be my screen. Did I add a draw method for my enemy? I did not. Let me add one. So I'll define a function called draw. For my draw, I'll take a surface parameter as well for my enemy. Then let me go ahead and add the function. So I'll go with pygame.draw.circle. Since my enemy is a circle, the surface is going to be my surface parameter, comma. Next up, I'll need the color. Let's see, my enemy could be, let's keep my enemy, I don't know, like black. So in a tuple, I'll go with 0, 0, 0. Then outside the tuple, let me add the center of my enemy, which is basically going to be the x-axis and y-axis. So this is going to be self.x-axis, comma, self.y-axis. And outside the tuple, let me go ahead and add my self.radius. Whew, okay. Graphics, so to my player. Next up, let me go with my enemy.draw. Let me draw my enemy. To draw my enemy, okay, the surface is going to be my screen again. Honestly, that's basically it. Now let me iterate over my Pygame events. I'll go with a event loop. Okay, so for every event in my pygame.event.get, this gets all my Pygame events. I'll look for a specific type of event. If my event.type equals to pygame.quit, I'll set my is_running boolean variable to be false. Okay, and then outside my for loop, let me go with a pygame.display.flip. This is going to update my display. And lastly, actually second last, I'll go with a pygame.quit and then a sys.exit. Alright, now if I were to run my command. Okay, my NPC is automating way too quickly. I forgot to add FPS again. Alright, so let me go ahead and add my FPS. So I'll go with a clock.tick 60. Maybe outside, I'll go and say this is my FPS. Add a space here, a space there. Now if I run the command. Okay, my NPC is automating. Although, why does my NPC blink a little? Is it because of his position? It bonks there and then it blinks. Okay, it's definitely my automating. X-axis, x-axis, y-axis, y-axis. Then could it be my let's see, x-axis, y-axis, x velocity, y velocity increases. Okay, the bounce. So if my self.x-axis minus my self.radius is less than or equal to 0, my self.x-axis is greater than or equal to 800 minus my self.radius. I do that if my self.y-axis minus self.radius is less than or equal to 0, my self.y-axis is greater than or equal to 600 minus my radius, self.y-axis asterisk equals -1. That part is definitely correct. Okay, honestly, it should be correct. It hits down, but then it doesn't bounce back up. Why? X velocity or Y velocity. In my parameters, I do have an x-axis, y-axis, x velocity, y velocity. Oh, okay, this should be underscore velocity. Alright, now my NPC should bounce perfectly. There we go. Okay, nice. Alright, next up, let me add a collision. So, I think my collision should be inside my game loop. Most likely after my, or before my graphics. Let me go with a collision detector. So, I'll go with a collision detection. Okay, for my collision detection, since it's a rectangle and a circle colliding, I need to, let me define a function called collision detector. Okay, and then I'll add the parameters of my circle. My circle's parameters are gonna be, let me add a colon here. So my circle's x-axis, my circle's y-axis, okay, my circle's radius, or honestly I'll just go with radius because rectangles doesn't have radius. Now my rect parameters, so my rect underscore x-axis, my rect underscore y-axis, my rect underscore width, lastly my, excuse me guys, my rect underscore height. Okay, and then let me go ahead and add a closest x-axis. So my closest underscore x-axis is going to be equal to max my rect underscore x-axis comma my min is going to be my circle underscore x-axis comma my rect underscore x-axis minus my rect underscore width. I hope this is correct. Now for my closest underscore y-axis, which is going to be equal to max, my max is going to be my rect underscore y-axis this time. My min is going to be my circle underscore y-axis comma my rect underscore y-axis minus my rect underscore height. Alright, and then let me find my direction x. My direction x is going to be equal to, let's see, my circle underscore x-axis minus my closest x-axis. My direction y is going to be equal to my circle underscore y-axis minus my closest y-axis. And then I'll create a direction underscore squared variable that's going to be equal to gradebook. I appreciate you, Prabhas, and I apologize if I can't pronounce you guys' name, guys. I'm awful with pronunciations. Some mistakes are having C. Oh wait, am I making some mistakes? Okay, the only mistake I could think of is this should be plus instead of minus, but I'll see if the game crashes there, like it doesn't work properly. I'll change that to pluses. Direction squared is going to be equal to my direction x multiplied by my direction x plus my direction y multiplied by my direction y, and then I will return my direction squared, which is going to be less than or equal to my radius to the power of 2. Okay, and now let me go ahead and add a if statement. If my collision detector function, let me fill in my parameters. My parameters are going to be my enemy dot x-axis comma enemy dot y-axis and enemy dot radius. Okay, I'll add a comma now for my player. So my player dot x-axis, player dot y-axis, player dot width, and player dot height. Alright, if that happens, I'll go with another if statement. I might need a global collision variable. I'll add that right under this. So collision equals to false because I haven't collided yet. I'll go down and then I'll add if not collision. If my collision is set to true, okay, I'll change that to if. If my collision is set to true, I will print boom collided. There we go. And then set my collision to be equal to true, else my collision is going to be equal to false. Alright, now if I run the command, every time I collide, let me try colliding. Okay, it does say boom collided. It's okay, I think it's perfect. What happens if I change this to plus? Will it still say? Uh, the it still says boom collided. Okay, I guess let's also say why that happens. Let's go with a control C, get sensei here, paste out a bunch of space sensei. For my collision detection logic, it says boom collided. Let me go back. Let me copy that part because I don't remember it memorized completely. Actually, I do kind of remember this memorized, but I don't want to type this out. Let's get sensei back. It says boom collided when I have it written like this, and also where I have it written like this. Just change the plus to minus. Be really careful. There we go. Okay, so what's the difference and which version is correct? Question mark. Here, Howling Dark, I appreciate you joining the stream. Alright Vivek, let's tear this down and make it crystal clear. You're using circle rectangle collision detection. This math is a little tricky, but once you understand the logic, you'll never get false positive again. The key formula, okay, so it should be plus. How it works, min circles x-axis, rex x-axis plus rex width. Finds the smaller value between circles x and the circle's right edge, okay. Max rect ensures the result is at least the rectangle's left edge. Outcome closest x-axis is the point of the rectangle that's closest to the circle's, okay, center. The same applies for closest y-axis. Honestly, I prefer doing pixel perfect collision. Then you calculate the distance from the closest point to the circle center. Okay. Your second version is wrong. Rect underscore x-axis minus rect underscore width. This is outside the rectangle on top. Okay, on the top left of the rectangle, the math now finds a closest point that doesn't exist on the rectangle, so the distance check becomes unreliable. That's why sometimes collision trigger weirdly. Your closest point is wrong outside the actual rectangle. Okay, the first version is correct. Always use, okay, so I always need to add a plus here. Sensei's note. This is the standard circle rectangle collision algorithm. It's battle tested, used in real games, and what you want for object oriented programming enemies. I actually might add images right now because I created a few PNGs. Let me say, Sensei, can I get a instructional based question, but instead of drawing objects, I want to use my PNGs. Because guys, I did make a few PNGs. Absolutely, time to level up. This time we're not just drawing rectangles or circles, we're going full ninja mode with PNGs. You learn how to use classes and handle images instead of shapes. Your instructional based question, player class attributes, methods, enemy class attributes, these are the methods, game loop, fill the screen, each frame, move the player based on keyboard input, move the enemy automatically, check for collision between player and enemy. I will have to create masks and recs because it's going to be pixel perfect collision. Circle or rectangle, whichever fits your PNG, draw both. Objects using the draw method, draw both. Extra challenge optional, use different images for player and enemy. Keep collision detection working with the actual size of the image. Okay, Vivek, this will teach you how to integrate images into your object-oriented programming system, which is exactly what real games do. Once you get this, you can start making your game actually look like a game. Your mission, right? Both classes and the game loop from scratch using your PNGs. Alright, let me get Sensei there. Go with Control A, delete this whole thing. Start up by importing Pygame, and then let me import the sys module as well, and then let me initialize Pygame by typing pygame.init. Then let me create a clock variable. This is going to be my FPS controller. I'll set that to pygame.time dot clock, capitalized clock. Maybe I'll add a comment that says FPS controller. Hello, how are you doing, Dev Mindset? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, and then let me go ahead and add my displays. So for my display, let me create a width variable and a height variable. I'll set my width variable to be equal to 800 and my height variable to be equal to 600. And then I will create a screen variable. I'll set that equal to pygame.display.set underscore mode. The mode will be my width variable, which is going to be 800, and height variable, which is going to be 600. Then let me add a caption. So I'll go with pygame.display.set underscore caption. My caption will be something like object-oriented programming version, I don't know, 1.3. Okay. And then let me go ahead and create my player class. Honestly, is it smart to write player class like this as well? So I'll create a class called player. Honestly, that feels kind of wrong. Okay, for my player class, I'll go ahead and define a dunder init constructor. I'll add a few parameters like my x-axis, y-axis, width, height, x-axis velocity, y-axis velocity. I might add gravity soon as well, but first let me see if I get a hang of it. And then honestly, excuse me guys, okay wait, I feel like I need to load my images. The question is, do my images go inside my player class or outside my player class? I'm pretty sure it goes outside. So I'll go with player, or actually let's go with inside the player class. I think it's correct. So I'll go with player image. Player underscore image is going to be equal to pygame dot image dot load. Okay, I'll give the file path of my image. The file path is going to be my game items, followed by 2 forward slashes. Let me shrink my screen. Followed by npc, 2 more forward slashes, and my player png. And I will convert this to alpha because this is a png. There we go. Okay, I'm pretty sure that was correct. And now let me define a constructor. I'll go with dunder init. Okay, I'll add a few parameters. Actually, before I add a few parameters, I think I gotta create rex as well. But before I create rex, let me define a I feel that I need to go with my constructor first. That feels pretty important. Dunder here, so I'll go with x-axis, y-axis, x-axis velocity, y-axis velocity. I think that those are the only 2 things I need for now. I'll go with self.x-axis velocity equals to x-axis velocity, and self.y-axis velocity equals to y-axis velocity. Alright. And now, these are the variables that I created. So my player. Okay. Then let me go ahead and define a rect function. I'm going to create rex. I'll take 1 argument inside, which is going to be my player image. Okay, and now I'll create a variable called player underscore rect, which is going to be equal to my player underscore image dot get underscore rect. Is that how this works? Or should I create the rex outside? This is going to be my image, I guess. So I'll just change that to image. So image.getRect, x-axis, y-axis, width and height. This rect should most likely be uppercase. X-axis is going to be something like 100, y-axis is going to be 300, width is going to be 50, height is going to be, okay, I won't worry about the width and height. No, I do need to worry about the width and height. In that case, I guess this whole thing goes out. Let me copy that, delete that from here. I'm pretty sure this should go out in that case. There. I'll delete this. Go ahead and define a function called scale. I'll add an image parameter and a factor parameter. I'll set the factor to 0.1. Okay, and then I'll return pygame.transform.scale. Okay, so I want to scale my image. So let me go with my image, comma, a tuple. Okay, pygame, there we go. Now I'll add the size of it. So I'll get my image because I want to scale my image. I'll get my image's width. And then I'll multiply that with my factor. And then I'll add a comma and do the same thing with my height. So I'll do image.get_height. I'll multiply that with my factor as well. Alright, and now let me scale my player image. So player_image equals to, let me invoke my scale function and add the parameter as my player_image. Okay, there we go. I'll do the same thing with my enemy class as well. So I'll go with space enemy equals, or enemy_image. I haven't loaded the image yet, equals to pygame.image.load. Okay, so this is going to be, the file path is going to be my game items followed by 2 forward slashes followed by npc, 2 more forward slashes, and my, this is going to be, actually I forgot, the name was kept as boss png. I will convert this to alpha as well because it's a png. Okay, perfect. That seems more reasonable now. Okay, now let me go ahead and create Rex. Create Rex. Okay, did I say load images? Let me go ahead and say load images. Alright, perfect. So the object is like the duplicate of the class. Okay, so basically the object, yeah, it is like the duplicate of the class. So you set a object, for example, my player class. So I create a player variable that's basically called an object because it's equal to my player class. Then I can access my player class's attributes using the dot function. So my player object, the variable, that is going to be something like player.move. That's going to move my player with the function inside of my, or the method inside of my player class, if that made any sense. Okay, so I'll go ahead and create Rex. So for my Rex, let me go ahead and add my player_rect, which is going to be equal to my player_image.get_rect. So I get the rect from my player image. The position is going to be top left, which is going to be equal to, I don't know, like 100 and 300. Let me do the same thing with my enemy_rect. My enemy_rect is going to be equal to my enemy_image.get_rect. Okay, this is going to be equal to the top left as well. Let me go with rect. So top left, which is going to be equal to a tuple of 500 by 300. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Then let me create masks. So I'll go with create masks. Okay, and maybe I'll add a pair of parentheses that says for pixel perfect collision. There we go. Okay, now let me go ahead and define a move function for my player. The move function is going to have one attribute called keys. Okay, and then I'll add an if statement. If my keys at index of pygame.key is right, if my right key is pressed, I will increase my self.x-axis by my, I'll increase my player_rect.x-axis. Can I use that? Okay, perfect. By my self.x-axis velocity. And if my keys are index of pygame.k is left, if my left key is pressed, I will decrease my player underscore rect x-axis by myself underscore x-axis velocity. Okay, and if my keys are index of pygame.k, pygame.k is up. If my top key is pressed, I will decrease my player underscore rect dot y-axis this time by myself dot y velocity. Okay, and if my keys are index of pygame.k is right, if my right key is actually if my bottom key is pressed, I will increase my player underscore rect dot y-axis by myself dot y velocity. Okay, perfect. Next up, let me add a trap method. So define trap. Okay, for my trap method, I'll go with my player underscore rect dot x-axis, which is going to be equal to max. The max is going to be 0. The min is going to be, let's see, my player underscore rect dot x-axis, comma 800. My vertical window size minus my player underscore rect dot width. Okay. Okay, let me do the same thing with my y-axis as well. So I'll go with player underscore rect dot y-axis, which is going to be equal to max. The max is going to be set to 0. The min is going to be set to my player underscore rect dot y-axis, comma 600, my vertical window size minus my player underscore rect dot height. Okay, player underscore rect dot y-axis. Did I add a y-axis for my player underscore rect? X-axis, y-axis. Guys, did I spell it wrong or something? It looks pretty correct. Oh, it's in it up, my bad. There we go. Here. Alright, next up. Let's see. Let me, I defined movement, I defined trap. I'm pretty sure I got to define graphics. So I'll define graphics. Okay, it will take one parameter of surface, okay? So let me go ahead and add a screen dot blit. Honestly, do I need my screen dot blit? I do. Okay, so my first parameter is going to be my surface. This is going to be my player image, so I wouldn't need a graphics variable here. Alright, I think that's basically it. Let me go ahead and create another class for my enemy. So this is going to be my enemy class. I will define a dunder init for my enemy class. I'll add a few parameters. Okay, before I add my parameters, let me actually lubricate my lips. It's really dried. Alright, perfect. Okay, for my enemy class, I'll add a few parameters. Since my enemy is going to be automated, let me go with x-axis, y-axis, x-axis velocity, y-axis velocity. Honestly, those are the only two parameters I need for now. Okay, so I'll go with a few instance variables. Self.x-axis velocity equals to x underscore velocity. Self.y-axis velocity is going to be y underscore velocity. Excuse me, guys. And then let me go ahead and define a automate method. The automate method is going to be, I don't think a space looks good, does it? Okay, I'll go with my self, actually my enemy underscore rect dot x-axis. I'll increase that by my self dot x-axis velocity, and my enemy underscore rect dot y-axis, I'll increase that by my self dot y-axis velocity. This will basically automate my enemies. Self.y equals to y velocity. So y velocity, there we go. Okay, gonna do and continue with my research. Alright, dog, good luck with your research. I appreciate you joining this stream. Alright, so let me go ahead and define another method called bounce. This is gonna add a bounce to my screen. Honestly, I feel a space would look much better. Alright, for my bounce, let me go ahead and add a if statement. If my enemy underscore rect dot x-axis is my enemy is a rectangle, so if it's less than or equal to 0, or my enemy underscore rect dot x-axis is greater than or equal to 800 minus my enemy underscore rect dot width. What's up? How are you, Goku Uzumaki? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, so my width, I will multiply my self dot x-axis velocity by asterisk equals to -1, and I wouldn't need y-axis because I don't want my enemy to like be flying over the sky. Alright, that's honestly basically all that I needed for this. For my enemy, automated my enemy, bounced my enemy. I won't add collision yet. Let me test it. So I'll create a player object. I'll set that equal to my player class. Okay, add a pair of parentheses and fill in my parameters. So the x-axis velocity of my player, let's keep it 8 pixels per frame. Y-axis is going to be 8 pixels per frame as well. Let me create a enemy object. I'll set that equal to my enemy class. The parameters are going to be, let's keep it relatively slower, 6 and 6. Alright, now let me go ahead and add my game loop. For my game loop, let me create a is underscore running boolean variable. I'll set that equal to true, and then add a while loop. So while is underscore running, while my program is running or while my running is set to true, I will add my player movement. Before that, let me go with a screen.fill. I'll fill my screen with a good gray color, 200, 200, 200. Alright, and then let me, honestly, I feel white will look much better here. So 255, 255, and 255. Alright, and then let me go ahead and add my player movement. I'll add a comment that says player movement. For my player movement, let me go ahead and create a keys variable. I'll set that equal to pygame.key.get underscore pressed. There we go. Okay, and then I will go ahead and type my player object dot my move method. This is going to take one parameter of my keys. Okay, and then let me go ahead and add trap. So actually player movement and trap. Yeah, I don't want to like add a lot of comments, so I'll go with my player dot trap. There. Okay, maybe space here. Actually, space doesn't look good. Alright, so that's all they need for my player, right? Trap, move. Okay. Then let me go ahead and add my enemies. So I'll go with enemy movement and bounce. So I'll go with my enemy object dot my move function, or is it called automate? Did I call it automate? Yeah, automate function. And then my enemy dot bounce function. Okay, perfect. And now let me add graphics. For my graphics, let me go with screen.lit. My enemy underscore image is going to be my first parameter. My second parameter is going to be my enemy underscore rect. I'll do the same thing for my player. So I'll go with screen.blit. So screen.blit my player underscore image, comma, my player underscore rect. Okay, that's basically it. Let me now go ahead and add my event loop. So my event loop, which is going to be set to for every event in my pygame.event.get. This basically gets all my pygame events, but I'm looking for a specific one. if my event dot type equals to pygame dot quit, I will set my is underscore running boolean variable to be equal to false, and then outside my for loop I'll go with a pygame dot display dot flip. This basically updates my display, and then a pygame dot quit. Okay, now let's test this out. If I would run the command, my player is here. Where's my enemy at? Didn't I blit him in? Screen.blit enemy rect. Okay, automate my enemies. My enemy's position is most likely wrong. X-axis velocity, y-axis velocity. I didn't have a position for my enemy. No, I did. 500, 300. Where did my enemy go, guys? My player can... Oh, okay, no wonder. Alright. I forgot to add my FPS again. That's probably my enemy just left the screen or something. Okay, let me go ahead and create my clock.tick, which is going to be set to 60. And add a comment here that says FPS. Alright. Now my player does move pretty nicely, and my player is kind of blocked and can exit the screen. I can add a few minor changes, but I gotta figure out where the hell did my enemy go. My enemy just went missing on spot. So screen.blit, enemy image, enemy rect. Automated my enemy, bounced my enemy. Is my bounce function correct? It is correct. If my enemy underscore rect dot x-axis less than or equal to 0, or my enemy underscore rect dot x-axis greater than or equal to 800 minus enemy underscore rect dot width, x-axis velocity. Okay. Wow, Python, it's a pity I'm focusing on Java for now. Honestly, yeah, I did want to learn Java as well, but after Python, I'm most likely going to learn C++. Although, good luck learning Java. Hope well. Okay, let's see. My bounce is correct, so that should bounce my enemy. My rect is most likely wrong in that case. Enemy rect equals enemy.image.get. I didn't scale my enemy. There we go. Enemy underscore rect dot enemy underscore image equals to my scale function. My enemy underscore image. There we go. And now my enemy is going to be seen. I'm pretty sure. Perfect. My enemy is here. There we go. It's automated. Now, let me go ahead and add a collision logic as well. So, after my enemy movement, I'll go with a collision detection logic. So, for my collision detection, like, any tips for your logic building? Honestly, the only way I built my logic is by complete repetition. Like, I have like a lot of lives on my channel. I've been just going through the same exact problem again and again. I think the best way to actually learn is by practicing it. Like, I practically memorized all these formulas. Like, right now I'm going to be working on a collision detection formula. I feel like I did that more than like 50 times. I've written that. So it's kind of like a muscle memory at this point. So for my collision detection, let me define a collision. Honestly, let me go with a overlap variable. So offset underscore x-axis, which is going to be equal to my enemy underscore rect dot x-axis. Maybe spell it correct. Okay, enemy underscore rect dot x-axis minus my player underscore rect dot x-axis. And then for my offset underscore y-axis, that's going to be equal to my enemy underscore rect dot y-axis minus my player underscore rect dot y-axis. Okay, and then I'll need a overlap variable. So overlap is going to be equal to, this is where we're going to be using our masks. So my player underscore mask dot overlap, if my player mask overlaps with my, did I create masks? Guys, I forgot to create masks, my bad. Okay, so for my masks, I'll go with player underscore mask equals to pygame dot mask dot from underscore surface. I want the surface to be my player underscore image. There we go. Let me do the same thing for my enemy. So my enemy underscore mask is going to be equal to my pygame.mask.from underscore surface. My surface is going to be my enemy underscore image. Okay, perfect. Now, for my overlap, if my player mask overlaps with my enemy underscore mask at this given offset of offset underscore x and offset underscore y, let's see, I will do something. That's basically it. Now let me go ahead and add an if statement. If overlap, if my overlap is set to true, and I will need a collision variable as well. So I'll go with a collision and set that to true. Actually false because I haven't collided yet. Okay, so if overlap and if not collision, if my overlap is set to true, if this condition is met and my collision is set to true, I will print boom collided, and I'll set my collision to be equal to true, else I will set my collision to be equal to false. Alright, now if I run the command, when we touch the NPC, it says boom collided and it's basically pixel perfect collision. Although this doesn't look as good because right now I don't have gravity, I might add gravity next. So it's like if I hit the jump button, I like jump up and then come back down. Okay, that aside, how do I figure out on how to add gravity here? I'm not used to using object-oriented programming in Python. Alright, maybe I go ahead in my player details and I add a whichever comment. Let's see. What else do I need for gravity? For gravity, we need a jump strength. So I'll create a jump underscore jump strength. Okay. I guess that's all I need for my gravity. So I'll go with self dot jump. It's a pretty good habit to copy it to avoid typos. Jump strength equals to jump strength. Okay. Should I create a gravity method? I might just do that. So I'll define gravity. Okay. Do I need a parameter? Okay, actually I will create a parameter of gravity. Okay, instead of creating a gravity global variable. Let's see. Honestly, a global gravity variable would be much easier. Let me go up here under my collision. I'll go with a gravity. I'll set that equal to 0.5. Alright, so how do I add that inside my player? Let's see. Under my gravity, let me go with actually let me drink some water first so I jog my memory. Alright, got it. This is where I use my y-axis velocity. So my y-axis velocity is there. I wouldn't need the two of these. Now I'll go with if my keys at index of pygame.key is space, if my space bar is clicked, and I need to create a floor variable as well. So I'll go with floor. My floor, I'll create a floor variable. Basically, floor is something like where my player is going to be standing, and because he doesn't want to like stay at the end of the screen. I could do that, but I'm used to creating a floor variable. So my floor is going to be equal to pygame.rect. My floor's x-axis is going to be 0. Y-axis is going to be let's go with 100. Width is going to be my width variable. Height is going to be let's say 300. Alright, so where was I? So if my key is at index of pygame.key is space, if my space key is pressed and my player underscore rect dot bottom, if my player's bottom is greater than or equal to my floor's y-axis, my self dot y velocity, my player's y velocity is going to be equal to my jump underscore strength. Actually, self dot jump strength. So self dot jump underscore strength. There. My jump strength equals to jump strength. Okay, so when I define my player, I'll go with my jump strength of something. Okay, alright. Okay, that's basically most likely it. Now let me go with gravity. So for my gravity, my self dot y-axis velocity is going to increase by my gravity, and then my player underscore rect dot y-axis, my player's y-axis is going to increase by my self dot y underscore velocity. That's basically my gravity logic. So this is going to be me apply gravity, and then let me go ahead and add a landing as well. So I'll go with landing. So landing, for my landing, maybe I go here. All right, so I'll add an if statement. If my if my player underscore rect dot bottom, if my player's bottom is less than or equal to my floor dot y-axis, okay, my player underscore rect dot bottom is going to be equal to my floor dot y-axis, and then I will reset my self dot y underscore velocity, means my player's y-axis velocity, to be 0. All right. That basically applies gravity. So under my above my collision logic, I'll go with gravity. Let me go with my player object dot my gravity method. Okay, does my player have gravity? Type error, player dot dunder init missing one required positional argument, jump strength, line 78. 78. Oh, okay, my bad. Jump strength is going to be -12. There. Now if I run the command. Okay, my player is sinking down. Where's my floor at, guys? Alright, I actually know where I messed up, I think. I made like a tiny Flappy Bird type thing, like jump, jump. If this was around -9, then it would be something like a Flappy Bird type stuff, like jump up, dodge the enemy, go down. Honestly, this is kind of fun in its own, but that aside, I'm pretty sure I know where I messed up. I messed up in my gravity logic, so this should be most likely greater than. Okay, that just leaves it up. That's probably my, oh, I didn't draw my floor. Let me go to my graphics there and go with pygame.draw.rect. I want to draw my rectangle is basically my floor, so I want the surface to be my screen. There we go. And then let me fix my typo. Okay, the color is gonna be let's see, 0 0 0. I forgot the RGB for brown. Let me actually check, because I did write my RGBs here, I think. Do I have my RGBs? Oh, there we go. Okay, so it is 0 0, but I want for brown. So that's my RGB for brown. Let me copy that. That's here. Okay. There we go. And then my attributes are going to be my floor's attribute. Okay, let me run the command. No wonder, that's my floor. So I got to decrease my floor. Alright, so where's my floor variable? Maybe I change my this to 500. Excuse me, guys. There we go. That looks much better. Maybe 400. There. Now I can jump. My jump strength isn't that much. I'm still getting collided with the enemy, guys. That's bad. Let's change that to 11. Now bump, up, and up. Okay, I do want to change where they look as well. Like my enemies just look at one direction right now. I might change that as well. How do I change that? Oh my gosh, I forgot. I'll need a variable called honestly, I'll change that in a bit. Let me go ahead and add score first. So I'll create a score variable. I'll set that equal to 0 for now. Then a font variable. I'll set that, font. So font is going to be equal to pygame.font.capitalize font. I don't know a specific font, so I'll set this to none. This is going to be Pygame's default font. The size, let me keep it to 36. And then in my graphics, right there. There we go. Okay, I'll create a variable called score underscore text. I'll set that equal to, let's see, my font dot, I'll use the render function. I want to render my font. I'll add an f string for my text, so we'll need a text. The text is going to be score, comma, my score variable. Okay, and then my entalis, is that how we pronounce it? I'll set that to be true. I don't know what that means, honestly. Comma, I'm pretty sure this is going to be color, right? So my font's color, let's keep it to be white. So 255, 255, 255. Alright, that's my color. Next up, let me blit my score text. So I'll go with screen.blit my score underscore text. Okay, I want it to be at position of x-axis 10 and y-axis 10. Now if I run the command, there is a, I can't see the score because my screen is white. Let's change the score to black. 0, 0, 0. Now I see the score there, but my score doesn't like change right now or anything. So guys, here's the bad news. I kind of forgot the formula that we used to like change the score when the enemy jumps above the, when my player jumps above the enemy. I will try though before I ask for help. Okay. If not collision, prim boom collided. Okay. Else, let's go with score plus equals to 1. Does this change my score? Okay, it does change my score, but then it's like every time I don't collide. But if I'm stuck colliding with the enemy, you guys see for a split second, it like stops me from this thinking, like my score doesn't move. So there is a small function here. It was called if my player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or equal to my enemy's top. My enemy underscore rect top means if my player's bottom is greater than my enemy's top, my score increases by 1. Is that how we had it? Honestly, I'm not too sure with that, so let me just go with a control C. Let's get sensei here. Paste it at a bunch of spaces, say sensei. I did this on my own, but I forgot how to update score every time my player jumps over my NPC. ... Can you teach me? Question mark. Maybe drink some water. Honestly, I think I should learn duck typing and polymorphism as well. I did learn those back when I was doing my object-oriented programming stream, but I think it won't be as different, although it might be a little, so I should go through that as well. Vivek, this is incredible. You just went full PNG power object-oriented mode, object-oriented programming mode. You got player movement, gravity, bouncing, enemy, and pixel-perfect collision. You're practically running a mini Pygame dojo already, guys. This is absolute beginner stuff. Now, about updating the score every time the player jumps over the NPC, here's the battle plan. Detect a jump over. Okay, we want you to count a score when the player passes the enemy horizontally. Okay, so I should remember this now. Horizontal is probably standing line. I used to always mess that up with vertical. So we can check if player underscore rect dot right is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot right and not already scored. Score plus equals to 1. So if my player underscore rect dot right is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot right and not already scored. So I have an already scored variable set to false. Score plus equals to 1, already scored equals to true. Player underscore rect dot right is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot right. This means the player has moved past the enemy on the x-axis. Already underscore scored a flag to make sure we only count once per pass. We set it when the player goes back. Add the flag already scored equals to false. Then inside the game loop, score logic if player underscore rect dot right is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot right and not already scored. Reset flag if player goes back to left. If player underscore rect is less than or is less than my enemy underscore rect dot right, already scored false. Now your score only increments once per jump over the NPC. Vivek, once you implement this, every time the player jumps past the enemy, you'll see the score increase exactly like a real game. If you want next, I can challenge you to add multiple enemies. I think I want to figure this out first. Alright, and the one that Sensei said me did have a bit of a problem because I did that last time and there was an error. I won't like call the error out yet because I might just be wrong. Okay, so inside my game loop, let's say under my player movement, I'll go with a comment that says score logic. So score logic. Okay, so it says if my player underscore rect dot right is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot right and not already scored. So let me go with already underscore scored variable. I'll set that equal to false because I haven't scored already. Excuse me, guys. Okay. If my player underscore rect dot right is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot left, was it left? No, right. And not already scored, my score is gonna increase by 1. Okay, and my already underscore scored is gonna be equal to true. Is that an else? There's no else. Okay. If my player underscore rect dot left this time, okay, dot right is less than my enemy underscore rect dot right, my already scored variable is going to be set to false. Okay, before I add a change, let me check if this actually works. Oh, so I just got to jump in front. I can't jump in front, I mean behind. So for that, if my player underscore rect dot right and not already scored, I want to add one for left as well. Or honestly, I might add the or here. Or my player underscore rect dot left player underscore rect dot left is less than my enemy underscore rect dot left, okay, and not scored, if my player underscore rect dot right is less than my enemy underscore rect dot right, or my player underscore rect dot right left is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot left, my score is going to be false. Now if I run the command, okay, I'm pretty sure I gotta change these signs then. There we go. Okay, this should work, right? Okay, that adds a lot of score. Maybe this should go in the other line. Okay, let me actually copy that. Get Sensei here. Paste add a bunch of space and say Sensei. This works, but I want to increase my score every time the player jumps over the NPC. Oh, Vivek, I see you're already doing the head part right. Guys, I don't take credit for this part. I copied that part. But right now, your score only increases if your player passes the enemy horizontally. We wanted to count every jump over the enemy, not just when they cross X position. Detect a jump over. We need to check vertical movement too. A jump over happens when the player is above the enemy, top of player is less than bottom of enemy. The player is moving down past the enemy's Y position, player falls on enemy level. You can track this with a flag like before, but reset it once the player lands. Jump underscore over equals to false. Inside the game loop, if my player underscore rect dot bottom is less than or equal to my enemy underscore rect dot top. Guys, this is the part that I was talking about. And not jumped over, jump underscore over equals to true when player lands on floor or below enemy. If player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or equal to my floor dot y axis and jump over, which is set to false, score plus equals to 1. Actually, yeah, that is set to false. That's set to true. And jump over. Score plus equals to 1, jump underscore over equals to false. This way, the score increases every time the player jumps over the enemy. The flag ensures only 1 point per jump, then resets the next jump. Vivek, your stream just got a real game mechanic upgrade. Once you implement this, every successful jump over the enemy counts. Your viewers will feel like this is a real challenge. Okay, let's get Sensei there. Now, let's implement this logic. So, I'll go with my already scored variable only. Okay, for my score logic, let's see. I'll go with if my player underscore rect dot bottom, okay, is less than or equal to my enemy underscore rect dot bottom, actually dot top, okay, and not already scored, I will set my already scored to be equal to false. Okay, and then another if statement. If my player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or bottom is greater than or equal to my floor dot y axis and my already score is set to true, I will increase my score by 1. Then let me set my already score to be equal to true. Okay, let's see if this works. Did I miss a part? Okay, this should be false. And that should be true. Okay, now if I run the command, does that like I don't know, it gives me it does give me a score, but does it look like there is a delay, or is it just me? Okay, one way to find out, let me go up to my player object, let me change that to 15. Now, jump. I see a slight delay for some reason. Okay, let me go with a Control C, get Sensei here, paste it, say Sensei. It works, but I feel like there's a tiny delay here. Question mark. Guys, is there a tiny delay? I don't know. Vivek, you're killing it. But yes, that tiny delay you're feeling is real. It's because of the order of operations and how we're updating everything every frame. Let's break it down. Gravity and collision order. Right now, you're doing player moves, move, trap inside window, trap, score logic, check, jump, enemy moves, automate and bounce, gravity, da. The subtle lag comes from the score checking happening before the gravity updates, so the player might appear slightly above slash below the enemies. Okay, visually, before score triggers. Fix update gravity before the check score, so my gravity should come before my scoring. FPS consistency, right now FPS is set to 60, locks FPS to 60, that's fine, but your machine or image are a bit heavy. Blitting large PNGs every frame can cause tiny delays. Okay, I see. So it's because my score logic should be below my gravity. Let me copy that, get that here, paste it. Let's see if the tiny delay is gone. Bop. Okay, it's honestly still there. I think when I'm touching the floor, that's when I get my... Okay. Oh, okay. I think I might figure this out myself. When I touch the floor, so second part, floor. If my player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or equal to my enemy underscore rect dot top, would this change it? It's still... Wait, can I like just jump? Okay, never mind. This wouldn't work because that's like in general enemy top. Okay, you know, I do have a reference here, I'm pretty sure, that says the logic. Let's run this thing and check what this is. Here, okay, so yeah, when I jump over my enemy, it gives me the score. So the logic is somewhere here. That's screen.blit, graphics, count score. Okay, this was the part that was confusing me. If not, player has scored, so I need a player scored variable. Okay, so in my dictionary of my player, where's my player's dictionary? Right there. Has scored is set to false. Okay. Collision detection. Count score. If not, player has scored. If my player has scored is set to true. If my player underscore rect dot bottom is less than or equal to my enemy underscore rect dot top. That's what I was actually trying to do. And then another if statement. If my player underscore rect dot center x, I forgot about the center x function, which is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot center x, score plus equals to 1, I set that to true. And if my player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or equal to my floor dot y axis, player has scored equals to false. Okay. I should remember that now. If not already scored, that was the first part, right? So if not already scored, and then if my player underscore rect dot bottom is less than or equal to my enemy underscore rect dot bottom dot top, my bad, dot top, and then another if statement. If my player underscore center x is Actually, if my player underscore rect dot center x is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot center x, okay, if that happens, let me add a colon here. I will do something. I will print, actually I will increase my score by 1. So score plus equals to 1, and my already scored variable is going to be set to true. And then if my player underscore rect dot bottom is was it less than, if my player underscore rect dot bottom, okay, is greater than or equal to my floor, is greater than or equal to my floor dot y-axis, my already scored is going to be equal to false. Can you do score plus plus in Python? Honestly, I don't think we can use two pluses in Python. The one that I've learned of is called the augmented assignment operator, where we do plus equals or like minus equals, asterisk equals, or like to the power equals. But honestly, I've never heard of the plus plus operator. Is that called operator? Okay, pretty sure we can't do that. So if I run the command now and I jump over the NPC, just jump. Okay, there we go. I do gotta memorize this part though. Perfect. So let's memorize this real quick. If not already scored. Okay, my score is set to false. This is gonna say if my score is set to true and my player rect dot bottom is less than or equal to my enemy rect dot top, and my player rect dot center x is greater than my enemy rect dot center x, I increase my score by 1. Already score equals true, and if my player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or equal to my floor dot y-axis, already scored equals false. Perfect. Now let's write that whole thing again. I need to be sure, guys, that I know this. So to start, let me go ahead and import pygame, and then let me import sys. Okay, the plus plus, at least in other languages, the same as plus equals to 1. Oh, I see. That sounds honestly pretty fun. Okay, then let me initialize pygame by going with pygame.init. And then let me go ahead and create a FPS controller. So I create a clock variable, set that equal to pygame.init, actually pygame.time dot capitalize clock, and then maybe I'll add a comment that says FPS controller. Okay, and then let me go ahead and add my display. For my display, I will create a width variable and a height variable. I'll set that equal to 800 for my width, 600 for my height. Then I'll go with a screen variable. I'll set that equal to pygame dot display dot set underscore mode. I'll set my mode to be a tuple, my width variable and my height variable. Then maybe I'll add a caption. I'll go with pygame dot display dot set underscore caption. My caption is going to be something like, I don't know, object oriented programming version 1.4. Okay. And then let me go ahead and create a class called player. I'll create a player class. The player must be capitalized. Then let me define a dunder init. Okay, let me define a dunder init constructor. Honestly, before I define a dunder init, let me go ahead and load my images. To load my images, let me go with my player underscore image. I'll create a variable. I'll set that equal to pygame.image.load. Then I'll give my image path. So my game items followed by 2 forward slashes. Go control there. Then my NPCs followed by 2 forward slashes. My player PNG, and I will convert this to alpha because it is a PNG. Then let me go ahead and do the same thing with my enemy underscore image. My enemy underscore image is going to be equal to pygame.image.load, and I'll give the file path for my enemy image. So I'm going to give game items followed by 2 forward slashes NPC, and for some reason I named him boss PNG, probably because he's the final boss. I will convert this to alpha as well because it is an image. And since I'm going to be needing, since I'm going to be using pixel perfect collision, I'll create rect. So create rect, add mask. So for rect, I'll go with player underscore rect equals to pygame dot rect, or pygame dot get underscore rect. Okay, and the surface is going to be my player underscore image. Wait, guys, did I? Hold up, guys, give me a sec. Player underscore image dot get underscore rect. Guys, I lost my memory for a second. The position is going to be a quark, so top left, which is going to be equal to a tuple of 100 by 300. There we go. Let me do the same thing for my enemy. So I'll go with enemy underscore rect equals to enemy underscore image dot get underscore rect. And then my enemy is going to be located at the top left as well, somewhere around 500 by 300. Okay, that's the position. Now let me go ahead and create masks. Create masks. Maybe I'll add a pair of parentheses that says for pixel perfect collision. Okay, there we go, perfect. Alright. There. So I'll create a variable called player underscore mask, which is going to be equal to player mask, which is going to be equal to pygame.mask.from underscore surface. The surface is going to be my player underscore image. Okay, and then I'll create a enemy underscore mask variable. I'll set that equal to pygame.mask.from underscore surface, and the surface is going to be my enemy underscore image. Okay, now that I created mask, let me create a floor. Basically, the floor is where my player and my NPCs are going to stand. This is not that complicated. I'll create a floor variable, so that equal to pygame dot rect, capitalize rect, and I'll give the x-axis, y-axis, width and height of my floor. The x-axis is going to be 0, y-axis is going to be around 400, width is going to be my display's width, height is going to be 300. I can change this later, but this is just for now. Okay, and then I think I should go with my game loop now, but before my game loop, I'll go with a player class. My player class is going to have a dunder, so I'm going to define a dunder init, parentheses, go back here, do more dunder. Okay, so a dunder init constructor. The parameters for my player class is going to be my x-axis velocity and y-axis velocity. Then I will create a few instance variables. So I'll go with self.x-axis equals to x-axis velocity and self.y-axis equals to y-axis velocity. And then let me go ahead and create another method called the move method. This is going to be basically my player's movements. I will add a parameter of keys. And then I'll go ahead and type if my player at index of pygame.key is right. If my right key is pressed, I will do something. If my keys at index, okay, I will increase my player underscore rect dot, let's see, x-axis by my self.x-axis velocity. And if my keys self.x-axis velocity and y-axis velocity, there we go. Okay, and if my keys at index of pygame.key is right, if my right, actually now my left, if my left key is pressed, I will decrease my player underscore rect dot x-axis by myself dot x-axis velocity. And now I will actually need a jump strength, a jump strength parameter as well, because I am going to be using gravity. So jump strength, and I'll go with self dot, copy that to avoid any spelling mistakes, paste it here, jump strength equals to jump strength. Okay, next up, I'll go with if my player at index of pygame.key is space this time. If my player clicks space and this should be my keys, guys. Okay, and my whatchamacallit, player underscore rect dot bottom, my player's bottom is greater than or equal to my floor's y-axis. I will set my player underscore y-axis underscore velocity to be equal to 0. Okay. I'm pretty sure my player's y-axis velocity should be set to 0 right now, but I'll leave it as it is. Then let me go ahead and define a, let's see, a trap method. This is going to trap my player in the window so he can exit out the window. So for my trap method, I'll go with an if statement again. So actually not an if statement. So my player underscore rect dot x-axis is going to be equal to max, which is going to be 0, and min, which is going to be my player underscore rect dot x-axis comma 800, my vertical window size minus my player underscore rect dot width. I won't do this for the y-axis because my player won't be going up, he's just going to be jumping. That's basically it for my player, right? Next up, let me go ahead and create my enemy. So a enemy class. For my enemy class, I will define a dunder init constructor as well. I'll add a parameter of x-axis velocity and a y-axis velocity. Okay, there we go. Then let me add a few instance variables. So if my actually before I add instance variables, let me drink some water. Really dehydrated, guys. Alright, so my self dot x-axis velocity is going to be equal to my x-axis velocity, and my self dot y-axis velocity is going to be equal to my y-axis velocity. Okay, and then let me go ahead and create a automate method. So define automate. I'm going to be automating my NPCs. Okay, Control Z there. Here. Okay, so to automate my NPCs, I'll go with self or my enemy underscore rect dot x-axis. I will increase that with my self underscore x-axis velocity, and my enemy underscore rect dot y-axis. Honestly, I don't think I'll need a y-axis because I don't want my enemy to like move all over the screen. I just want it to move in the x-axis. Okay, let me define a bounce function now so my enemy doesn't exit the screen as well. I will go with a parameter of surface. Actually, I'm pretty sure I don't need a parameter. Okay, I don't need a parameter for now. I'll go with an if statement. If my enemy underscore rect dot x-axis is less than or equal to 0, or my enemy underscore rect dot y-axis is greater than or equal to 800, my vertical display size, this should be x-axis, minus, let's see, my enemy underscore rect dot width. I will multiply my, let's see, my self dot x-axis velocity by asterisk equals to -1. So my enemy's x-axis velocity by -1. Okay, that's basically it. Let me go ahead and create a few objects now. So for my player object, I'll set my player object to be equal to my player class. Okay, and then the attributes. So I need an x-axis, y-axis velocity, and jump strength. My x-axis velocity is going to be 100. Y-axis velocity is going to be, let's see, 300. Jump strength is going to be -12. And I just remembered one thing. After we load our image, we gotta transform our image as well. So transform and scale. So to transform and scale, I will define a scale function. And then I'll add two parameters. First one is going to be image. Second one is going to be factor, basically the size. I'll set the size to be 0.1. That's basically 10%. And then I'll go with a return. I will return pygame.transform.scale. Okay, trans. There we go. Transform.scale. I want to scale my image, and then a tuple. Let me set the height. So the integer of my image dot get underscore width. So I will get the width of my image, and then I will multiply that by my factor. I will do the same thing with my height. I will type integer image dot get underscore height. I will get the height of my image, and then I will multiply that with the factor. Alright, perfect. And then a real important step, I will reassign my player underscore image to be equal to invoke my scale function and add my player underscore image as my surface. Okay, I'll do the same with my enemy underscore image. I will set that equal to the scale function. Okay, and I will add my enemy underscore image as the surface. Alright, so that scales my image. Okay, let me go ahead and create my enemy object, which is going to be equal to my enemy class. The parameters are going to be x-axis velocity and y-axis velocity. So my x-axis velocity is going to be, let's go at 6 pixels per frame. Y-axis velocity is going to be 6 pixels as well. I just realized I kept 100. That would be way too fast. There we go. Okay, now let me go ahead and add my game loop finally. For my game loop, I will create a is underscore running boolean variable. I will set that to be true, and then I will add a while loop. So while is underscore running, while my is underscore running is set to true, or while my program is running, I will add my player movement. So player movement. For my player movement, let me indent. I'll create a keys variable. I'll set that equal to pygame.key.get underscore pressed. And then I will go with my player object dot the move method. And it's going to take one parameter of keys. So my keys. There we go. And then let me go with player movement and trap in window. Okay, next up, I will go ahead and type my player object dot trap. This is going to trap my player in the window. Alright. There we go. Alright. And then let me go ahead and add the move trap. Alright, let me go ahead and add my enemy now. So, I'll go with enemy. For my enemy, I'll go with my enemy object dot automate. This is going to automate my enemy, and then I will go with my enemy dot bounce. This will bounce my enemy. Excuse me guys, those are basically the two functions. Next up, let me go with my graphics. So I'll go with screen dot blit, my enemy underscore image, and my enemy underscore rect, and then a screen dot blit for my player underscore image and my player underscore rect. Which version Python is this? I think is the Python version 1.13 or something. I don't know how do we check it more. I shouldn't run this here real quick. Guys, I forgot to add a quit. This just crashed my game. Let me go here. Cancel that. Do we see it in terminal? Oh, it's there. There we go. I'm blind, guys. Okay, it's Python version 3.13.5. Alright, so was I here? Or there? Guys, I forgot where I was. Oh, wait, I was here. Okay. And then let me go ahead and go with a pygame.draw.rect. I'll be drawing my floor now. So my surface is going to be my screen. The color of my floor is going to be, I forgot the RGB color for brown. I'm pretty sure I had it written somewhere here. Did I have it here? I'm pretty sure I had my RGB written somewhere. Apply gravity. Da, da, da. I should memorize these colors. Uh, there we go. Okay, so it's 138, 100, and 0. Okay, I'll memorize that next time. Okay, so where was my... Okay, here. My color is going to be that, brown, and my attributes are going to be my floor attributes. That's basically it for drawing everything. Next up, let me go ahead and add a event loop. Event loop. So I'll iterate over my Pygame event. So I'll go with for every event in my pygame.event.get. This basically gets all my Pygame events. I will look for a specific type of event. If my event.type equals to pygame.quit, okay, I will set my is underscore running boolean variable to be equal to false. Okay, and then outside of my loop, I will, let's see, let me add FPS. So I'll go with clock.tick 60. Maybe add a comment that specifies that this is my FPS. And then let me go ahead and add a pygame.display.flip. Pygame.display.update works the same as flip, it updates our display. And then a pygame.quit and a sys.exit. Okay, now if I were to run the command, there we go. I forgot to do a screen.fill, guys, my bad. Okay, above our while loop, let me go with a screen. I want to fill it with, let's see, guys, did my game crash? Oh, there's no way. Okay, I was like, did my PyCharm crash? Is my stream still working? Okay, pretty sure there was a delay. Alright, so the color is gonna be, let's see, what is my RGB for my blue? It's 0, 188, and 255. Alright, so let me paste that here. This is the RGB for my blue. Now if I run the command, there we go. My player moves. Stream was lagging a bit. Yeah, honestly, I was like, no way my stream crashed. I gotta even like be sure if my mic is still working because I forgot to charge it. Alright, let me see if I messed up in my movement. Player velocity equals 0. Okay, there we go, I messed up here. Equals to self dot jump strength, and then my player underscore velocity equals to 0. Wait, y-axis velocity. I definitely imported something. I didn't. Okay, if my keys are index of pygame.key space and my player underscore rect is greater than or equal to my player bottom, my player underscore y-axis underscore velocity equals to jump strength. Okay, just need that. Now, if I jump, did I add my jump strength here? Jump strength is -10. If my keys are index of pygame.key, player underscore rect. I don't have a y-axis velocity. This should be self dot y underscore velocity. Okay. Equals to my if my player, so these are my player's movement keys. If it's space and my player is correct, what if I go with less than? It's less than, I'm pretty sure it's not less than. Yeah, I knew it is not less than. Okay, greater than, let me actually check my previous code. It's probably this. Okay, yeah, it is. My self velocity equals self.jump strength. Okay, that part's good. Okay, and that's my enemy, that's my player movement, my player trap. I honestly did everything correct. I'm definitely doing a silly mistake. Let's see. I'm definitely doing a silly mistake, guys. Player underscore rect dot bottom greater than or equal to floor self dot y-axis velocity. My y-axis velocity, I set it to be 8. It should be set to 0, right? Huh. What did I set my y-axis velocity to be here? The my y-axis velocity. Okay, I set it to be 8 as well. Okay. Oh, guys, I'm so stupid. I didn't add gravity. Alright, guys, that was all me. Alright, so how did I forget about gravity? Let me go ahead and create a collision variable. I'll set that equal to false because I haven't collided yet. There we go. And then create a gravity variable, set that to 0.5. Alright. Now, after I add my player movement, let me go ahead and apply gravity. So, apply gravity. For my gravity, I will increase my player underscore, actually my player underscore rect dot y-axis, or I think it's just my player dot y velocity. Player dot y velocity by my gravity. Okay, and then my player underscore rect dot y-axis by my player dot y underscore velocity. Alright, and then for my landing, let me go with a landing. I'll add an if statement. If my player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or equal to my enemy underscore rect dot top. If my player's bottom is greater than or equal to my enemy's top, I will reset my player underscore bottom, player underscore rect dot bottom is going to be equal to my, this should be my floor's y-axis actually. My floor dot y-axis equals to my floor dot y-axis. Alright, perfect. And then I will set my player dot y underscore velocity to be equal to 0. Now if I run the command, there we go, there's the jump. I forgot to add the gravity, guys. Okay, perfect. Nice. And guys, by the way, quick little something shameless. I did draw those PNGs. I did want to stream me drawing it. But that aside, let me now add my score variables. So I'll go ahead and create a score comment and then create a score variable. I'll set that equal to 0 for now. Let me just maybe go forward. Alright. And then I'll need a font variable as well. Font. And then I'll create a font variable, set that equal to pygame.font.font. Alright, so my font, I'll keep that to none. This is going to be Pygame's default font. My size is going to be 36. Alright, and then let's see, my font goes before my gravity. Or did it go after my gravity? Why doesn't your sprite hit the floor? Is it the PNG? Honestly, if I wanted, it could hit the floor. Like, I just gotta add more details and everything. Like, for example, I could like go with my trap player. So right now this is set to 0 and 800 is basically the default. Like, my sprite can't even go completely to the right or to the left because of that player cap. Although if I change this to -50 and I run the command, I can go a bit more to the left, like right here. So I gotta add those tiny details. I'm really lazy to do that. If I change this to 850, there we go. I could change that to 900. 900 is gonna go here. And I can do the same thing for the y-axis. I think 850 is pretty good. 850, and then I can do that for the y-axis as well if I want to go to the bottom. So let's go here, go up and go with player underscore rect dot y-axis equals to max, which is going to be 0 for now, min, which is going to be player underscore rect dot y-axis, comma 600 minus my player underscore rect dot height this time, not the width. Now if I run the command, my player is going to be here. Although this should actually, I don't think I need this y-axis. I need my floor. So my floor settings, that is somewhere right here. Graphics. Okay, there we go. My player underscore floor dot y-axis -10. What if I go with -10 here? -10. Okay, will I be like okay, that is kind of pushing my floor. It's going to pushing me to the floor. -10. I just got to do some adjustments here. Okay, that gets me up. What if I go with +10? +10. I am kind of just bouncing down. Equals to floor. Okay, let me try to figure that out. Honestly, I rarely even focused on that much. Although I do gotta focus on the details. Let's see. That could be because of my floor's width or something. My PNG is a square, so that's why I do know I gotta ignore my square. But hard coding is not recommended, honestly. If my enemy, my player, that screen dot fill, my floor dot something. Let's see. Floor +10. This also equals to +10. Does this work? There we go. I can jump. Perfect. So yeah, basically, yeah, we just gotta like hard code a few numbers if you want to get this down. Although I do appreciate that comment. This actually does look much better. I think I'll settle with this. Okay, and then I was about to add my floors, right? I mean my fonts. Actually, it goes above my gravity, my score. Let's go with my score system. So I'll go with score. For my score, let me go ahead and add, let's see, a if statement. If my player underscore rect dot bottom is less than or equal to my enemy underscore rect dot bottom, I will do something. I will add another if statement. If my player underscore rect dot center x is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot center x, okay, I will increase my score by 1. Score plus equals to 1. I do remember there should have been one more if statement here if I'm not wrong. I'm pretty sure that I don't have to go with a, oh, I remember. Okay. Above my score variable, I'll go with a already underscore scored variable. I'll set that equal to false because I haven't scored yet. Okay, already scored variable. And then let me go ahead and add an if statement here. If not already scored, and then go ahead and indent this whole thing. We click tab to mass indent. Then I will increase my score by 1 and set my already scored to be equal to true. Okay, and then let me go with a if. I forgot the second part. If my enemy dot actually I forgot my second part. If my player underscore rect dot bottom I do want to check the reference for the second part because I forgot that part. That's landing. Already scored. Where is it at? There. If my player underscore rect dot bottom, okay, is greater than or equal to my floor dot y-axis. Okay, I'll remember that next time. If my player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or equal to my floor dot y-axis, I'll go with +10 because I added a +10 here as well. Although hard coding is not recommended. Where did I add +10? I added it here, so okay. I'll set my already underscore score to be equal to false. Alright, perfect. And then let me go ahead and go to my graphics, create a score underscore text, which is going to be equal to my font variable dot render function. I'm going to render my score. I'll need a text. So my text is going to be score, which is going to be a pair of curly parentheses, my score variable, and then my analysis. Is that how we pronounce it? I'll set that to true. And lastly, a color. My score could be, let's keep it black, so 0, 0, 0. Okay, and then let me go with a screen.blit. I will blit my score text to my screen. So score underscore text. And the position is going to be 10, 10. Alright, perfect. Now, if I were to run the command, I have a score variable here, and every time I jump over my NPC, it says I get a score. Nice. And if I collide with my NPC, I didn't add the collision logic yet. So let me go ahead and add a collision logic. Maybe under my landing and under my enemy before my graphics. So I'll go with a collision detection. Okay, I will, since this is going to be a pixel perfect collision, I'll need a offset for x-axis, which is going to be equal to my enemy underscore rect dot x-axis minus my player underscore rect dot x-axis, and for my offset y, so offset underscore y equals to my enemy underscore rect dot y-axis minus my player underscore rect dot y-axis. And then I'll need a overlap variable as well, my overlap. Now this is where we're going to be using the masks that we created. So my player underscore mask dot overlap my enemy mask. So basically this means if my player mask overlaps my enemy mask at a given offset. So my offset is going to be in a tuple, so offset underscore x-axis, offset underscore y-axis. Perfect. And then let me add a if overlap, if my overlap is set to true, and if not collision, my collision variable is set to true as well, I will print boom collided. Okay, and then I'll set my collision to be equal to true. I'll go with an else. My collision is going to be equal to false. Alright, perfect. Now if I collide with my enemy, it's going to say boom collided, boom collided. If I jump over my NPC, it won't say boom collided. There we go. Okay. I do want to add like an endgame logic as well. Might actually do that. Let me just lubricate my lips real quick. Okay, they're real dehydrated. Okay, so did I add everything? I did add everything actually. Okay, I guess let's go with Control A, Control C. Get Sensei here. Paste it, add a bunch of space and say Sensei. I added a bunch more things to the code. Okay, Vivek, look at you go. This is the same series leveling up. I see what you did. You polished the gravity, tweaked the gravity, improved the score logic, and even cleaned the landing. You're basically building a mini platformer with pixel perfect collision. Here's what's hot and what you could refine further. Score logic. Right now you have if not already scored, if player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or equal to enemy underscore rect dot bottom. If player underscore rect dot center x is greater than my enemy underscore rect dot center x, my score plus equals to 1, already scored equals to true. Works fine, but you might notice sometimes the score triggers a little too soon if the player barely graces the enemy. Excuse me guys, consider checking player underscore rect dot bottom, which is less than enemy underscore rect dot top for cleaner jump over detection, gravity and landing you applied. Player dot y-axis underscore velocity increases by my gravity. Player underscore rect dot y-axis increases by my player underscore y-axis underscore velocity. If my player underscore rect dot bottom is greater than or equal to my floor dot y-axis plus 10, player underscore rect dot bottom equals to floor dot y-axis plus 10, player dot y-axis underscore velocity equals to 0. Perfect, smooth jump. The Plus 10 offset is smart, gives a tiny buffer. Trap method. Okay. Slightly outside the window, maybe for a cool sliding effect, works visually, but keep in mind, your enemy will be bouncing strictly inside 800 by 0 by 800. Might want consistent. Okay, boundaries unless it's intentional. Okay. Enemy movement, simple bounce logic works great. You could later add vertical movement or sinusoidal. Guys, is that how you pronounce it? I'm awful at pronunciations. Sin sinusoidal patterns to make the game more dynamic. Pixel perfect collision. You're using masks. Excellent. That's the pro approach. Vivek, at this stage your game loop is solid. Next big step could be add multiple enemies, array of enemies. Okay, each enemy with its own rect, mask, velocity. Improve scores, feedback, sound plus visual effects when scoring, polish, jump physics, maybe a slightly low gravity for smoother arcs. Okay, if you want, I can give you a challenge question. Modify your game to include 3 enemies independently. Okay, let me just say something. Sensei, dot dot dot. I'm still a beginner, so I don't know how to use multiple inheritance with Pygame. Does that make guys, is that grammatically correct? With Pygame. So can you show me how to do that, if it made any sense? Question mark. Like, the 2 classes can have access to the traits of that 1 class. Okay, now we're talking, Vivek. You want to dive into multiple inheritance in Pygame. That's the big league. Listen carefully, because this is where the object-oriented programming starts to feel like a real power-up for your game. The concept multiple inheritance means one class can inherit from more than one parent class, gaining all their modes and traits in games. Okay. This is perfect if, say, you have a movable class, handle position, movement, velocity. You have a drawable class, handles drawing the sprites on the screen. Oh, we need a separate class for that? You want a player or enemy class to inherit from both. Boom! One class can move and draw without rewriting the code. Okay, mini example for Pygame. We import Pygame, we import sys, we go with a pygame.init to initialize, we add a display, our parent class, movable. Self, x-axis, y-axis, x velocity, y velocity. We add a few instance variables, define a move function. Self and a quark of keys equals to none. Default empty, okay, keys used for player. Pass. Class drawable, okay. Define dunder init. We add a image path, okay. Self.image equals pygame.image.load. Our image path, we convert it to alpha. Self.rect equals self.image.get underscore rect top left. So the position is 0, 0. Define draw surface with a surface parameter screen.blitz self.image okay, self.image equals pygame, okay, and self.rect. I see, okay. Multiple inheritance. Class, player, movable, drawable. Define dunder init, self parameter, an x-axis, a y-axis, a x velocity, a y velocity, and a image path. Movable dunder init, drawable, define dunder init. So, movable, drawable dot dunder init. Self.rect top left, define move, self keys, game setup, player, warning, okay. What's happening here? Movable handles movement logic, drawable handles drawing logic, player, okay, inherits both traits. Now your player can move and draw without repeating the code. Okay, there is a pro tip, but before that, I have three classes: movable, drawable. Didn't I need something called like a super dunder in it? I'm pretty sure I did, honestly. Okay, pro tip Vivek, multiple inheritance can get messy if parents have methods with the same name. Then Python uses MRO, method resolution order, to decide which one runs first. But don't stress, we'll master that when you fight more complex bosses. If you want, I can turn this into a challenge question for your live stream, create a player and enemy class, both inheriting from movable and drawable, make them interact, detect collision, and move independently. Let me say, Sensei, actually, I thought to inherit traits from other classes, we needed to use the Dunder Super question mark. Did we need to use it under Super? I remember learning that like when I was like working on basic object oriented programming. I see where you're mixing things up. Listen, Vivek, listen carefully. Because this is where beginners trip over themselves. Super is for calling a method from a parent class. Usually, the next class in the method resolution order, MRO, is inside a child class. It's not a mandatory for multiple inheritance, but it's a cleaner, safer way to make sure all parent constructors or method gets called without hard coding each class name. The difference without super, we did this last time, works fine, but if you add more parent classes or change the order, you have to manually update each call. That's messy for big projects. With the super movable, okay, super args and quarks, call the next parent drawable super dunderinit args and quarks. Oh, I see. Okay. Hold up. If I go up here, okay, my movable. I don't have any parameter. Okay, I have a function image path. I don't have any image path here. Surface movable, drawable. Oh, I see. Okay. So my player inherits my movable and my drawable. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and then movable super dunder in it player movable drawable super dunder in it. Here super automatically follows Python's MRO. Each parent class gets initialized in the right order no matter how many you add or rearrange. Take away Vivek, use super when multiple inheritance gets complicated. You don't always need it for two classes, but it's further proof for bigger games. If you want, Sensei can rewrite your Pygame multiple inheritance example. Okay, honestly, I think I got a good grasp of it. I think I got a good grasp. And guys, honestly, I might have to go like pretty soon. It's currently 5:38. I do need to work on my college stuff. That's why I've been streaming for like lesser time these days because I like come from college, do my college stuff, stream, learn a little Python, then back to college work, guys. So until my college, I might have to like stream for a little lesser time. That aside, I think I get a good gist of it. Let me go ahead and create a class called movable. Okay, the M must be capitalized. Okay, there. For my movable class, let me define a dunder init. I'll work with the super later. I'll just go through the manual way. Just stream. So the movable is going to be having a x-axis, y-axis. Did it have velocities? X velocity, Y velocity. Alright. Okay, and then let me go ahead and create a few instance variables. So self dot x equals x, self dot y equals y, self dot x velocity equals to x velocity, and lastly self dot y velocity equals to y velocity. Alright, perfect. And then let me, should I like define a movable? Should I define movable? Let me just scroll up to the reference. Okay, define movable self keys equals none. So I gotta define a method called movable, or just move, which is gonna have a self parameter and a keys parameter, which is gonna be equal to none. Okay, default empty, keys used for player. Then I have to go with a pass. Alright, and then for my drawable class, so I'll create a class called drawable. So there we go. So drawable, I will define a dunder init. Okay, there we go. Actually, dunder here. Okay, what all parameters should it have? It should have one parameter of my image path. So I'll go with my image underscore path. Okay, and then I'll go with a self.image equals to pygame.image.load my image path. Oh, I actually see how it's working now. Okay, guys, I see the wires connecting. Let me go with my image path. And then I will convert this to alpha because my image will be a PNG. There we go. Okay, next up, I gotta create rect. So I'll go with a self.rect equals to my image. Actually, self.image dot get underscore rect. The position is going to be top left, which is going to be equal to a tuple of 0 and 0 for now, right? Oh, that's correct. Okay, and then I create a draw function. So I'll define draw. My draw function is going to have a parameter of surface. Okay, my surface is going to be, so my surface will be my screen. So surface dot blitz. Let's see. So I'll go with self.image and self.rect. Okay, this honestly wasn't as complicated as I thought it'd be. Okay, player. Now if my player has to inherit my parent classes of my movable and drawable, I'll go with my movable and my drawable. So I basically wouldn't need to add my x velocity, y velocity here. I'll just need my player's jump strength. Correct. Self x-axis, y-axis, x velocity, y velocity, image path. Okay, never mind, I would need it. I just need to add my extra image underscore path here. Okay. And then, let's see. I go with my movable. I don't add them as instance variables. So I go with movable dot dunder init, movable dot dunder init, self parameter, comma x, y, x velocity. Guys, am I doing something wrong? X-axis, y-axis velocity. Shouldn't I be able to have access to my x and y as well? That is self.x-axis, right? Okay, honestly, let me actually go with a bunch of control Z's. There we go, and delete these. Alright. Now I go to my, I don't know, like this file, go with control A, delete everything. Zoom in, copy that, paste it here. Let me try to see the code real quick. So we imported Pygame, imported sys, initialized Pygame, added our display, added an FPS controller, our parent class movable, our parent class drawable. I added a constructor, instance variables, okay. Added a constructor, my instance variables as well, define draw, multiple inheritance. Player inherits from my movable and drawable. Okay, and then I defined a dunder init. Added my x-axis, y-axis, x velocity, y velocity, image path. Movable.dunder init self, x-axis, y-axis, x velocity, y velocity. Drawable dot dunder init self image path self dot rect dot top left. Okay, x and y, that does make sense. Define move, this is my moves, the player setup. Okay, all right, if I run the command, for now there is nothing because I didn't import any objects or anything, but I honestly see how this works and everything. However, I will be going through this next stream. I was planning to end the stream right now because I got to do some of my college work. Yeah, guys, I got a lot of college work. I usually prefer streaming like for 4 to 5 hours, but this is kind of limiting my time. Let me go to my main profile and actually fix my camera. It's a little messed up. Alright, guys, so basically that was pretty much it for the stream. Let me check if I'm audible. Okay, that was pretty much basically it for the stream. I think I could have done more, but I'm glad I started to get a quick gist of my, whatchamacallit, object-oriented programming in Pygame using Python, if that made any sense. That aside, if you guys enjoyed the stream, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, like it helps my algorithm, sharing makes you smile, subscribing is like a cherry on top, and join the Discord as well. A quick shameless plug, links in the description and in the pinned comments. I'll catch you guys in the next live stream or video.